Durham Planning Board will come to order. We will start with roll call. Julie?
Julian Smith, alternate.
Robert Sullivan.
Heather Grant.
Mike Lehrman.
Gary Whittington.
Paul Rasmussen.
Michael Barron, Town Planner. And everybody is here in the room, not on Zoom. And as you know, Munish Nanda is on a leave of absence.
Peyton McManus.
Rich Kelly.
Emma Hollander.
Sally Tobias.
Peter Howard.
All right, thank you. With regards to so everybody's here, so don't have to see any alternates on the agenda. So Dunkin' Donuts has been postponed. And just during other business, I want to, if we can, set aside about 10 minutes just to talk about what kind of non-residential and how many residential, non-commercial zones we should have around the downtown area to be that buffer. I have been working on some ideas, but I can't get much further without some input with regarding to that topic.
Oh, Mr. Chair, this is a workshop, and at workshops we don't generally have public comments time, but I do notice we have one person in the audience. So I assume, I don't know whether that person wishes to speak or not, but it's up to you if you want to have a public comments or let them, Beth Olshansky participate.
Well, we have.
She may not have noticed that there's not a public comments at workshops.
Well, Beth provided comments with regards to the architectural standards, which, but what does the board think?
I think we got a lot of meat here already.
Excuse me?
I think we got a lot of meat here already, and so I think that we just really need to
It is
knuckle
good.
down and get through it with ourselves first. That's my opinion.
I mean, if someone shows up to make a public comment and they're available and they're here, I would say that I would be in favor of a public comment if they've taken the time to show up. I mean, certainly you provided a lot of written material, which is interesting, but it'd be nice, since she's taken the time to show up, to have a public comment.
I think the other problem you have, though, is other people might have come and had public comments and didn't because we said we wouldn't have public comments. So I think you got to balance that.
I agree with Peyton.
Looking pretty even right now. I'm not getting a feel of one way or the other.
Well, is there a member of the public wishing to speak this evening?
Briefly.
I did come with
All right.
brief
then
comment.
I support listening to what.
All right,
I'll be brief.
thank you.
Ironically, Beth Olshansky, Packers Falls Road, one of the things I want to do is thank the planning board. Hope that that's not too egregious, but I know we've been slogging through the design standards, and I appreciate your attention to that. I don't know how many of you saw the Seacoast Online today. The main article was about all the housing being built in Portsmouth, and it had pictures of many of these different large multi-story housing units, all with flat roofs, and it just really rung home how important these standards were, because most of them weren't that attractive and were similar to what David Choate had described as what he didn't think we wanted in Durham. So that was just a point. And one quick question, as I was going through the design standards, I realized there are some terms that I'm not familiar with, and I wondered if other board members might not be. Like, I came across the word neo-traditional in the design standards, and I wasn't clear how that differed from contemporary, because neo sort of means new. But Michael, I wondered perhaps if you could, I tried to look some of that up, but I wondered with your expertise if you might address the difference between neo-traditional and contemporary.
Oh, sure. Well, neo is new, so neo-traditional, it really just means traditional styles, but in a more contemporary, but in a setting that's contemporary, similar to traditional or even neoclassical, which is a particular kind of traditional, more formal, colonial, Georgian Federal Greek Revival. A lot of what Durham has, particularly in the Churchill areas, that kind of neo-traditional, those formal styles, Georgian Federal, not Greek Revival, but some Greek Revival. And contemporary means a couple different things. It means, obviously, today. It also frequently means, in an architectural sense, modern or modernist, that it is a departure from traditional architectural styles. The best example now is the addition to Huddleston Hall. You've probably seen on the right side of Huddleston Hall. I mean, that is clearly a contemporary and modern, non-traditional design with a lot of glass and not traditional materials like brick or wood, composite, newer sort of materials. So that's a contemporary that is, one might argue, is not really contextual with tradition. It doesn't use traditional forms. It's not really nodding to a traditional setting. But many people actually like that because it's a strong contrast, and it's a statement that we are in 2026 and this is a university and we're modern and we're hip and we're cool. But contemporary can also be something that is very contextual. It can be something that a building that clearly reads as today, but it can use traditional forms, gables, cornices, corner boards, a distinct foundation, vertical windows, double hung windows, traditional sorts of proportions with bays. But that kind of building is, there's clearly, it's using those parts and those materials and those details in kind of an innovative and a contemporary way so that anybody knows immediately this is a new building. But in a way, those are some of the best buildings because they do both. They read as contemporary, they're sort of innovative, often by an architect, and yet they're respectful of traditional context and they fit in very well. So, hope that helps.
What would you describe the lot at Pettybrook in Maine, the Doug Clark property, when they designed that building? What would you describe that to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's. I think that's a wonderful building. It's contemporary, but it's clearly contemporary. There's nothing traditional about it, but there's something the materials, the rhythm of it, some of the details. It really is very contextual, and I think respectful of traditional context.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great building, I think.
I think it could ring of neo-traditional, that building, because it has some traditional elements to it, but it has the,
If that's such a great building, is it in our pictures?
It hasn't.
It's online.
It
under
hasn't
that
been
project.
built.
It hasn't been built
I
yet.
was thinking, we have pictures of examples, and we don't really have an example of something that's contemporary and in context, and you just start singing its praises. Maybe it's a good example to put in.
Yeah. Okay. That gets us to the amendment for the ADUs. So, one of the reasons I put out my letter was so that folks would have opportunity to provide counter arguments to my thoughts.
I have a couple of questions just about it and the definitions. If we're ready to start doing that.
Sure.
I really wasn't really great on understanding what an S corporation is, other than there's taxes. What would be an example of somebody with an S corporation owning the property?
That's a shared partnership, I believe.
Right. So one of those persons would hold the title to the property? And then a limited liability company. I guess it's just like, how would these, if there were companies, or just the managing member of the limited liability company,
I think the idea is that a lot of people might hold that in some form of an LLC to
In
shield
part of
themselves from
their-
all sorts of
part of it,
liability.
yeah.
So the idea is you're not holding it directly, and you're holding it in some form of an S or C or membership partnership.
But they would have to live
That's
there.
right, and then they would have to
Couldn't
be the
another member of their,
a member or the primary member of that,
okay.
as opposed to just having that LLC as a holding company for multiple properties.
Yeah, that's what I-
And then, of course, you would only be able to be an owner-occupier of one of them, which
Well-
would limit the utility across multiple properties as well.
So that's where I think I was, like, if you had an LLC and you had a bunch of properties, it would be the sole or managing member of the limited liability company. So you have to go down to just that specific person. So it couldn't just be somebody that has a lot of properties.
Right, and I think that's consistent with the intent of the ordinance, which is to make sure that the actual human being who, as a practical matter, is the quote
owner of
unquote
it,
owner,
yeah.
and everyone would view as the owner, is the one who must be in occupancy regardless of whatever particular legal form of ownership they chose for tax purposes or for liability protection purposes.
So it is just that one person. You wouldn't be, they could assign someone to it. It would have to be
No,
them.
because they have to be the managing
Right.
member.
Yeah, a managing member, sort of by definition of an LLC, has the control and authority to make
Of-
decisions.
of that
So they could
LLC.
say to the tenant, be quiet.
Although it does just say that they could just be a shareholder of an S corp.
Yeah,
So
say any
So if you were to wanted to
shareholder.
game this, you would just have 4 members and then your S corp, and one of those members could hold 1%, for instance, and then go and do whatever they would want to do.
Yeah, however, S corps are really only suitable for family partnerships typically,
not
and
large,
only
yeah,
used for them. I think it would be kind of, for someone to use an S corp for this would be kind of the tail wagging the dog, because that's really always driven primarily by the tax strategy that they have. I mean, I just don't think that's going to be a material problem.
Okay, it seems pretty tight, okay.
At a higher level, I do want to come out in strong support of the letter that was written by the chair and provided in a public forum outlining, I view it as a policy document in response to the proposal. And I think that's completely reasonable to state that in a public forum exactly as it was stated, as a policy document, and allow that to be both read and consumed by anyone. It wasn't passed in an email to individuals. It was put out in a very public way. And I think it makes an awful lot of sense as I've been thinking about that, and some of the public, let's just say, hostility to that approach. To me, I'm like, that makes all the sense in the world. You do your research, you assemble your information, you're probably reading policy documents from other places, and I think it makes a lot of sense to post that in a public forum so that everyone can benefit from your research and your analysis. So when I look at that, I'm saying, why don't we do that more? I think it should be a standard that many of us should use. You pull it all together and you post it. And it's not sent via email and a quorum, it's just provided. And then we can debate the merits of that in a very reasonable way instead of just having a verbal exchange. So I just want to come out, and I agree with the planner, so thank you very much for that. I was probably going to ask for a legal opinion on that, because I think there was, someone brought up a right to know request, or, you know, that it somehow seemed to be tipping on right to know, and I found that absolutely, you know,
it's public.
not in line. It was seemed the opposite of that. It seemed in a very public forum. So I want to say thank you to the planner for that, and thank you to the chair for providing a policy document that you outline in a very thoughtful manner. And I think moving forward, it would make sense to do that more often. So I'm going to lean into that and appreciate that very much.
So let's talk about the substance of the letter. The point of, I think, Jay Goobs's proposal is, you know, the noise control and the notion that the owner lives there. So if following Jay's notion, he's trying to get back to a place that there's some level of influence on behaviors in there. And I'm not sure, Paul, that your letter really talks about how does that problem that's been, which is the genesis of Jay's proposal, get resolved.
Well, Jay's asking us to make illegal something that's legal at several different levels, right? The issue is they want to limit not just, oh, it's noisy too late. They want to limit it's noisy at all. They want to tell people not what you can build on your property, but who's allowed to live there on your property. And that's a line that morally I will not cross.
I think that there was an example of the rowdy party over there, which was probably really over the top. But that was something that actually happened after we've been discussing doing this, because there are other communities that do this. One of them's Newmarket. And I think it's a difference between, basically, when you purchase something, you're buying two rental properties versus purchasing a home and then having that other support that you have as rental income or parents moving in and kids and the whole thing. So I think that this sort of, yes, they don't like to have rowdy properties. They are calmer if there's an owner occupancy. But the whole over-the-top party shouldn't be included that, because that wasn't even happening at the time that this was discussed originally. And I think there was some verbiage of somebody saying, you know, there was like the derby party where they had a bouncy ball or whatever, bouncy house and all this crazy stuff going. That's just plain crazy. But that has nothing to do to me with what's going on with the ADU. And we just need to decide if it's something that's for us or not.
You go.
Okay.
I mean, I see the ADU, first of all, we get a lot of things stopped dead in the water because of the, well, then who's going to live there, and it's going to be loud. There's that automatic default excuse for not having certain things in town because of who's going to live there. And I think I don't want to get into who's going to live there, because in my opinion, when you start talking about who could live there, you're really kind of getting into, fair housing laws, because we're not supposed to be making decisions. We're not supposed to be creating zoning that will restrict human beings that we find undesirable. That's how terrible zoning created. In essence, I'm really not in favor of redlining. You know what I mean? I think it's wrong, because it is. But when it comes to ADUs, though, the whole purpose of an accessory dwelling unit was to create the opportunities, and we discussed this in the housing task force, was creating opportunities for generational housing opportunities, or to give a little bit more flexibility and power to a single person that is now kind of being overhoused with their large home. They can get an ADU, they can live comfortably there, they can open that house up to rent to a larger family, and they create traditional accessory dwelling unit, for the reasons why we have them, as a help in financing their home, paying for their mortgage, as a way of giving your kids a place to live, your family a place to live, and then it's just a reason why people have them traditionally. And I think that, in my opinion, I have no issue with saying, because I do think other communities do say, that it is for a single-family home. It is for the purpose of a single-family home. So you have the single-family home, and you are the owner of that single-family home. It is accessory to your use as a single-family home. I have concern with saying it's open to anybody, and that anybody can live there, because I do have concerns, and they're real concerns that we see across the country when it comes to housing, is large purchases, large companies purchasing homes for rental units. And that is something that is making it difficult for people to compete in the market. And I think that it would be beneficial if you're a large company and you are buying rental units, if you could put up an ADU, you're getting another whole rental unit for the cost of one rental unit. And I think in Durham in particular, and it may seem like I'm backtracking on the noise thing, but I think in Durham in particular, with the loss of 3 unrelated, and mind you, I thought that it was kind of an icky rule, but I understood why we had it. I don't consider the changes made at state to open up housing to provide for as many units as you want as a way of creating quality housing. I think it creates what I would consider substandard housing, and is certainly not suitable for families to be living in. You're not going to be renting a room and raising your 3 children in it. I think that's absolutely, to say that that's good enough is an insult to families, to be quite, or people raising children. It's an insult. It's an insult to anybody that wants to rent. Say, oh, it's good enough. You can just rent a room and share a bathroom with 6 other people. That's not quality housing. And so in Durham, where you could have that possibility, and I think you kind of touched on it in your thing, that you could buy a property and divide it up into as many units as you want and sell it at $1,000 a pop and a little extra for parking and make 15 grand a month in some homes. And I think we do have to take that into consideration on that end. But overall, I think we should just focus on accessory dwelling units as a single, as a use, an accessory use for a single family home in the traditional way of ownership. If you followed me.
Yeah, I feel very strongly that, the very, very basic definition of it being an accessory is an implication that it is meant to be part of something else as opposed to a freestanding duplex. And we do differentiate. We're not making a zoning for duplexes allowed everywhere. We're saying it's an accessory to an existing single-family home. The fact that the state law allows it specifically for towns and municipalities to make that allowance for requiring owner occupancy is an indication that, in thinking of the legislation, they didn't just throw it in by chance, that was a necessary prerequisite for having this to be acceptable to the majority of people. And we've heard over and over, I know this board has, about owners in neighborhoods wanting to preserve the character of the neighborhood. And I happen to live in a neighborhood, I have ADUs on both sides of me, across the street from me, down the street from me. They're all owner occupied. There's never an issue. And I think it does change things dramatically when you have a situation where you have a non-owner occupancy and the person there is not there to be accountable in any way, not just noise. Who maintains the property? Do they care what the property looks like? Anything else in terms of property values for the owners around you? So I think that to the extent the fact that it was assumed by the state that this was going to be an allowed thing, and based upon my research, I only found that there's only one state in the country that prohibits requirements for owner occupancy, and that happens to be Massachusetts. So
You do realize that any existing ADUs will be exempt?
well, that's another question, and that's a question I had in my mind. I read what Michael had said in there about that, and I'm just wondering, I'm not a lawyer, but we do have lawyers present, whether or not there might be another way of tackling that, rather than calling it a non-conforming situation, whether or not it might be possible, and I don't know if it's been done this way before or not, but I would suggest maybe get a legal question, to write it as the fact that, and from the date of, authorization of this new ordinance, any non-owner occupied shall be granted temporary exemption until such time, and that exemption shall expire upon transfer of ownership other than to the natural person of a trust of the owner. Something like that. So don't build it as a non-conformance issue, build it as an exception, an allowed exception at the date of execution, until such time as the ownership changes.
Until such time it is, yeah.
Because
Well,
again,
you can check it. If I
do
read
that?
the town attorney's opinion, she thought that a non-conforming status, that change in ownership does not affect that. But I can talk more with the town attorney and the town administrator, see if there's, if you want to proceed, see if there's any other ways to do it.
My thought is, if that worked, it would have become standard process, and you wouldn't have all these non-conforming things anymore.
How many,
The whole point of non-conforming is if the town decides to make whatever you currently have illegal, you're vested.
I have a quick question, do we know how many, we know how many properties we have with ADUs, do we know how many of them have?
Are not owner occupied?
Are not owner occupied?
Do we have a
I mean,
number?
are we talking about
we could
something
find that
that's,
out
are we talking about
theoretically.
something where there's only 10 of them and there's 150 in the whole thing, and do we really need to worry about it?
Well, isn't
We
that
could
the
find that
core,
out.
is that sort of the core question here? And I guess when I look at this, I understand the public good for the ADU, that you're adding housing. I don't understand the public good for restricting and scoping it to making it owner occupied. I have multiple units that the LLC that I own manages and controls in Portsmouth. I don't occupy those units. I think I'm an excellent landlord. I spent the last 2 days down there fixing AC units with Hart Plumbing. Terrific. But I'm not an owner occupier. And it's quite possible that these ADUs that are already there are not owner occupied. And in fact, in the complex that we're in, that I'm not occupying, but I do own, there's some terrible individual owners. Okay, so I can anecdotally say, I just looked across the building and she's the worst owner we've ever been part of. And then it becomes a nuisance issue. But I'm not trying to zone who my neighbors are. And it's quite possible that the other units that are in the complex are not owner occupied. But we're very incented to do the best management job we can possibly do. And one more thing on that, on the owner occupy. When you do the owner occupy, you scope it to that owner now having the ability to own one and manage one. I find some efficiencies in scale managing multiple, because all of a sudden I can start doing smart things about spreading my risk and my cash flow and my maintenance and other things across multiple properties and not just one. So I understand the public good for the ADU. I don't necessarily understand, outside of a nuisance issue that I think should be dealt with as a nuisance issue, the public good of scoping it to owner occupied, where you're limiting it to one owner with one ADU. And I think zoning at the core should be about incompatible uses and not about incompatible neighbors. And I think we're sort of turning it in that direction, and I don't think that's necessarily the direction that we want to go.
Yes.
So your letter, Paul, asks, there must be a significant public good. So I've heard two significant public goods advocated here. One is that there is a behavioral element that we think will help preserve the character of neighborhoods by having owner occupied, and there's a direct management piece there by the owner. The second is we are incentivizing and making single-family homes affordable in Durham for families because they can pay for them using the ADU, but we're not making them so attractive that they can be purchased by corporations that would then drive the prices up because it's a lot of beds they can rent. So I've heard two good public goods.
Well,
The
it's,
quiet piece, and single families can afford to live in this town because the $800,000 house, which is probably the number that you're paying a lot, can be afforded because you have a $2,000 rental in the backyard. So those are the two public goods that I see. And as I'm weighing it, I'm not hearing
so
anything to balance out that public good.
in my
a
letter,
negative way.
I refute your second public good, because it would be cheaper for, if I was a corp, if I was one of the big corps, which there aren't, I was reading an article, they haven't been hitting New Hampshire yet. It's cheaper for me to add an addition with 2 or 3 bedrooms that doesn't have a kitchen than it is to add an ADU that does have a kitchen. So if I was the corp, I don't want an ADU building. I don't want to add an ADU to an existing building. If I can get one that's already there, sure. But guess what? They're vested, so it won't make a difference for that. But instead, they'll simply expand the building as large as they can on the current lot, keeping it as a single-family house, and throw more people in there, which is worse than having the ADU and having set up in different apartments.
I think, I understand the argument in the context of Durham with students, but I think in the larger context, and I'm not focused on this at all with regard to students, I'm just talking about it as a general principle, that if you have single-family neighborhoods, and to encourage and to allow greater economic viability of single-family homes for those owners to be able to rent out a piece of it, okay, it's still an owner-occupied single-family home, it just has an accessory, keyword accessory, dwelling attached to it. But in the broader context, I don't think the issue primarily is about making multiple bedrooms and renting to multiple parties. It's basically saying, look, I got a rental. Can I have 2 families in a rental, or can I have 1 family in a rental? And once you cross that, so you're really saying we're going to allow multifamily in single-family neighborhoods, so long as it's only 2 multifamilies and not 3. But that's different. That's not what a single family. I mean, there's a reason why single-family zoning has existed for a long time, and there's a reason why duplexes are treated differently than single-family in zoning in general, and multifamily is treated differently. So all those things have developed for a reason over time, and the accessory development, it was specifically an accessory. It wasn't to say, okay, now we can allow duplexes everywhere. Duplexes are very popular, we're gonna have them all over the world, anywhere. Want a duplex, got a single family, now it's duplex.
But we may do
That's
that.
not what's being said. The intent, I think, the inherent intent was that it's an accessory use to a single-family dwelling. That's the difference, to me.
Helps you pay your property taxes.
It helps pay whatever, maintenance,
So
whatever it is.
There's a lot of reasons. I like you, Richard.
Yes, Richard?
Thank you. So I don't think I'm as morally encumbered as our chairman here is, and it doesn't rise to that level for me. I disagree with your argument. And I think there is, and I disagree with you, Peyton, to a degree as well, because those buildings that you described, whether they be mixed use or multi-unit, they're not ADUs. And it's a different purpose. I very much support this zoning change to require it to be owner-occupied. And until the council, and I'm looking at our council members here, do anything to hold landlords ultimately responsible, then I think we have to do something like this. I've encouraged members of this committee and members of the members of this board and members of the council to review Radnor Township, Pennsylvania's requirements to be a landlord in town. There's a modest fee that you have to pay to be registered. It is not a by right thing that you can be a landlord there. And I think a modest fee here for the major big landlords is not a lot to ask. But for those 1 and 2 offs, where they have a single family home in a pocket residential neighborhood, and we have problems with them, then let's not fight the students. Let's fight the owner. Let's make the owner accountable for the behavior or the condition of that property. But until we're there, I wholeheartedly support this and am prepared to move it to public hearing this evening. So are there any specific language changes that need to occur to this? I understand there's some concern among some of our members just to shoot it down. It's sort of that provision is dead on arrival. But are there other items that we need to address tonight? Or are we ready to move on this? Thank you.
Well, by definition, though, don't you argue for that this should be dealt with as a nuisance issue and not as a zoning issue? I mean, the argument that you lay out there, it seems to be it's a nuisance issue and not necessarily a zoning. I could have a third degree of kinship with some cousins that are terrible. I mean, I can't just because they're a family member quantify that they're going to be excellent stewards of the property. I think we make sort of a logical leap there that they will, for some reason, be excellent stewards because they're family members. I kind of sometimes see the opposite. I kind of see the family members taking advantage more of that situation.
I don't disagree.
So it seems that in most cases, it should be dealt with as a nuisance issue and not as a who's going to has the right to live in that second property. That seems like we're zoning for who can actually live there. And it's not an incompatible use. We're saying you're incompatible because you're not within 4 degrees of kinship.
Exactly. I won't disagree with anything what you just said. That's exactly what this is doing. You have to be owner occupied. It's simple.
No, Peyton,
Right.
just to be clear, the renter doesn't have to be within 4 degrees of kinship.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
Someone has to be living on the property. I think he understands.
Right.
And the position that Peyton and I have is, we have nuisance laws, which we're not enforcing, or people don't call to have them enforced. When you call, they get enforced. And this is just a means so that people who are currently living in town don't have to go through the issue of either talking to their neighbors to get better behavior or to call the police on them.
I don't really see this amendment as touching on behavior issues at all. I think it is spelling out who is considered an owner. It describes who the owner is, which reinforces the owner of the single-family unit, therefore the owner of the accessory to their single-family unit. And then it talks about floor space and parking and utilities and dimensional standards and permitting and, owner occupancy is what? A single-family residence with an accessory dwelling unit, whether an attached or detached, shall be owner-occupied as follows, and it describes how it should be owner-occupied. It's not saying anything about behavior. We're adding that to it as some members of this community are adding that to it as a reason why we must have this rule. I think that if we take behavior out of the picture altogether, which we should, because it doesn't matter if you're a student or not. I've lived next to some really loud, noisy people, and they were adults, and they did not have accessory dwelling units or any students living with it. It has nothing to do with it, and behavior certainly isn't, and who's going to be occupied. We're not touching on who's going to be. This ordinance spells out who an owner is, and how they need to make sure they're dividing up the utilities or providing utilities and pieces of pie. It's just very straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's very clean. I think if we actually went around and said, is there anything in here that needed correcting, I would only have one thing, and it would be very clean to me.
I mean,
Even-
that's
I would
fine,
even
but you can just
negotiate.
you can read Jay's letter and where he actually says the whole reason he brought it here is because of the behavior issues.
Well, that may be his intent, but that's not what's written here.
Anyway, I want to get back to Richard's point. Is there any verbiage changes
I have
in the
no
ordinance
changes to
itself?
make at all.
I don't either.
I would only say, and this is just a comment, it's not something that needs to be changed, but our fines in Durham are very weak. And I think the reason why you have problems with
You
other
control the
landlords-
fines.
I know, well.
That's
I
beyond
think
our
it's-
sphere of
I know
influence
it
here.
is, but 200, but we've put it in here.
Save
that
it.
it would be $200 a month. Well,
That
if
was
you're a
Gary,
rent,
Gary suggested that, so
the 200?
maybe he can clarify that.
Maybe you should add a
Is it
zero
in
to
some,
that.
is it in a
Oh,
state document?
I just
that
put it in
that's
as a placeholder. I agree that it could be higher if we really want to create a more powerful disincentive. We just had to put a number in, so I'm not tied to that number at all or
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
Because the
advocate for it.
200, they just pay it.
I don't think it's the planning board's role. That's the town council should set the number.
We just make a blank there and send it on.
Or maybe the question
Why don't we
is,
just
do we
say
want
subject to
a
a
big
fine?
number or
Boom.
a small number? That's kind of your question. A
Well,
number that
maybe,
makes it really
maybe since
sting.
it would be a living document, the fine should be able to change, and you don't want to change your zoning for that. So in my mind, it just should just say, property shall be subject to a fine, period.
And it goes on
A
the
per,
fine
a per
schedule.
month,
And
a
it could
per
be-
month fine or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Per month, yeah.
Yeah, so that-
Lose the-
To a
you
monthly
don't-
fine, to a
Yes.
monthly fine beginning with the first month?
I think with
Yes.
regard to fines, I think, because I had a note also that I think that was on the low side. If you think about what the purpose, if the purpose of a
That
fine
document's not in my packet.
is to discourage certain
When did
behavior,
we get this?
like speeding or parking
Or
illegally,
is-
it has to have enough
You want to read it?
value to make it worth the person obeying the rule. Otherwise,
Yes.
if it's a $5 fine per week parking in the wrong
What-
spot,
what is this?
okay, it's just a minor expense.
That is something we need to bring up to town council. It's
Yeah.
time for us to update that.
Yeah.
Because some of them are low. They did update
first
some
I've seen
last
this.
year. but-
Okay, so that's getting updated to a monthly fine.
So a monthly fine beginning with the first month?
Yeah, no amount, so you can change
Yeah,
it.
the rest of the sentence is fine, beginning with the determination of the violation.
I think the only other question in my mind, and I'm not making an argument one way or the other, just throwing it out there for discussion, and I appreciate that there's differences of opinion here, but in terms of the 3 years out of 5 being the owner occupied, is that the number that everybody's comfortable with? I mean, it got put in that way, or is it simply a defined period of time, or something that has to be requested as, some languages say that, it goes to the zoning or the code enforcement person.
So I have a neighbor right now, and he's on a sabbatical, and he's in Oxford. And so he's been there for a year, and he's going to extend a little bit longer. And so I was thinking about that with this exact case. And so that language for me seems reasonable because it allows, say, a multi-year sabbatical to take place. And he's renting his house out right now. So in the event that he had an ADU there, he would still want to take a sabbatical, and he'd want to go and do that. And if he wanted to extend for another, so I actually thought that language was pretty appropriate.
Right. I think the question in my mind is this, is if you do it 3 out of 5 years, and someone says, okay, I'm going to sell this property, but I can hang on to it for 2 years and let it go and rent it both sides of the property for the last 2 years before I actually sell it. You kind of get around it. Maybe it'll only happen rarely. Maybe it's not a big deal to worry about. I'm just, in my head, though, that's one of the things that sort of goes around, as opposed to saying, yes, for legitimate reasons such as military deployment, sabbatical, health reasons for taking care of another family member somewhere else. It says a reason for it as opposed to, well, I got 2 years I can just sort of take off and I'll do this as a rental unit for 2 years before I sell it. And then maybe no one will catch on and forget about that was.
Well,
I mean,
but
is that so bad? I mean, I know we're always trying to, ordinance on the worst case we imagine. And,
How about just
The
the sentence that
situation
says-
that I'm most concerned about with regards to this clause would be when a property goes into an estate, right? The owner dies. How long is it going to take for the estate to clear?
Some of them are several years.
Some of them
Sure.
do take several years. And if that property has to stay vacant the entire time, it's just chewing up the value of the
I
estate.
think
it
it's
would-
fine.
I think if
It
you
would still be
just,
2 years and then you might have to go down to 1 unit being rented instead
but
of.
couldn't,
Yeah, it would, I think legally it'd still be occupied by the owner, even if the owner were dead, because the executor is the owner's personal representative and would be in ownership. So I think it kind of comes out in the wash.
and couldn't the family get a special exception and say, we can't.
I just
One of
want that clause to be cognizant of the situation.
But they could get a special exception or a variance to it if they needed to because of specific situations pertaining to their.
We could add it to the definition of owner and say the personal representative of a decedent.
No.
I mean,
Because if they do that, then it becomes in perpetuity.
Well, but could, is a, could run, It would run.
That becomes the way to
Yeah.
defeat the law.
yeah. But they would have to.
you could just
present
have
it-
one sentence that says, in cases where this rule has special,
I think 3 out of 5 covers it.
okay, I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with it.
3 out of 5 is fine.
Peter?
Couple things, and they're real picky.
That's good.
Back in the definitions, owner. The owner of a property is an individual. It implies that there's only one owner because it's the. How about going with a property owner is an individual instead?
It's better language.
Because we're defining who fits that role. It could be multiple people.
Or you can put
Particularly when we get into the definitions below where it's any shareholder of an S corp. You know, so they're going to be multiple owners, and that, not that an S corp is going to be, you know, but there could be multiple people in an LLC. So you're going to have multiple owners. And I hate to, you know, I don't think it changes anything other than makes it clear that there can be more than one owner.
Well, don't we do that either alone or with others under one?
A natural person who holds title to the property,
If
either
their name
alone
is
or
on
with
the
others.
title, because they're a joint
Yeah.
tenant or a tenant in common, they are a natural person who holds title to the property with others. That's how I.
Okay.
Alone or with others, yeah.
The other one is down in the enforcement section, 10E. Right now, that fine is being placed on the property. Do we want that fine placed on the property owner of record?
Right,
The property owner,
right, property owner.
That's a good catch.
yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes a tax, some
It
sort of
becomes a
lien as
tax
opposed
lien.
to a
Right.
fine.
I mean, a lien.
Good job.
But won't it end up in that anyway? I mean, in the event
With the
that it's not
town,
paid.
it could end up in a lien with the town, couldn't
Well,
it?
but God
I mean,
forbid you'd get a landlord that said, well, you're the reason I'm in violation of this to their tenant.
I
and
like
make the tenant
Peter's
pay that
addition,
fine.
property
I think it's better
If you
not
want to
to.
stay
would
here,
be
you
a-
have to pay
yeah,
this
that-
extra 200 a month or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah, but they would
Not
keep,
to.
Yeah.
they have to.
It's too complicated to make it lienable. We do need more than this. Than just saying the property
They
is
would
subject
still
to a
be
fine.
getting-
To make it lienable, we might have to do more. It's not necessary.
So just say the property
Yeah,
owner.
it might take more work than this legally to make something lienable than just mentioning that the property is subject, and we want to avoid that. So owner of record probably is subject to a fine.
The property owner of record.
The property owner of record, yeah.
And,
Anything more?
well, just above it, on D, do we want to close by saying relief from this provision may be granted by special exception or variance? Or just leave it as is?
I would leave it,
Okay.
personally.
Everyone else?
I would leave it.
Okay.
They could make that themselves and go
Well,
and see what happens.
special exception, we have to call out. A variance, they could go and get, right? But
Yeah, I think if you wanted some relief, it probably would be best coming from either the town administrator or the town council. Because it's not really a land use thing.
Well, they would,
Kind of is.
yeah.
yeah, but isn't
Well, but
it,
it wouldn't be a variance, because a variance has to be a hardship inherent in the property.
Oh.
And
well, that would be a
I
hardship.
wouldn't,
inherent.
a special exception also deals with
It could
impact
be-
upon the neighborhood.
That's
It's-
why it shouldn't be in zoning.
It's really
Yeah,
it would
you-
really
you
be
don't
an
wanna use it.
unusual request of the property owner. I have very unusual circumstances. Can you give me some relief?
But that would
Which
go-
would seem either the town administrator.
Well, wouldn't they go to the ZBA? I mean, if it's zoning, if zoning is causing a hardship,
Yeah.
Well, the
why
zoning.
wouldn't they go to the ZBA?
Well, the zoning is empowered only to give a variance or a special exception and appeal. And
The ZBA.
special exception.
Forget I brought it up, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
right.
need to go any further with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It
administrative.
doesn't sound like anyone wants to.
Well,
It's fine.
I want to speak in favor of the amendment to pick up on something that Richard said and Mike said, and that is that I think the intent of the idea of an accessory dwelling unit, that if you don't have the owner occupied requirement, it's really not an accessory use within the scope of, it's just additional density on a residential lot. So I think that it's sort of implicit in the idea of something that's accessory, that it's not just saying in all residential areas you can put in other, the intent has always been to kind of create the situation where people could do the kind of things that we're talking about doing. So to me, it seems reasonable. I understand the arguments of fairness and so forth, but I just think that the enabling legislation that we're looking at from New Hampshire and talking about ADUs, that I think this is kind of what they're talking about. I mean, they're kind of talking about a residential neighborhood and an in-law house and a rental house for someone who's helping and something that makes that house work a little. They're not talking about all residential lots, including rental houses, have the right to build an additional unit. That's not really accessory, it's just independent.
So is there a change you're making with all of this, or?
I'm sorry?
Is there a change you're making?
No, I want to just pass, I just want to go with this, I just want to
Well,
go with this ADU.
I think we've modified it. Should we schedule a public hearing?
Well, yeah, just 2 points I want to make. F, under non-conforming situations, that may not be acceptable based on my conversation with the town attorney. But I would suggest leaving that in for the hearing, and I'll really lean into that with the town administrator and town attorney.
Yeah, just.
And if she says no way, then we take it out.
And
after the
it's
hearing.
not just her saying no way. She needs to spell it out. Laura really needs to spell out why it's no way, okay?
And then the second thing is under D, interruptions and occupancy. Obviously, if an owner is away the last 2 years and then they sell the property while the owner's not living there, that is still considered an owner occupancy. That is not considered, oh, I'm buying this property, it's grandfathered as an investment property.
Right.
Right?
It's owner.
So I don't think you need to say that, but we should just be aware if that question ever arises, no, this is still owner occupied. Does that make sense?
And just to take what might be a countervailing opinion to what you might think I would say, regarding the non-conforming situation, where it says, however, upon sale or conveyance of the property to a different party, the new owner shall occupy the property within 60 days. I might give them 90 days. Sometimes people buy something, they're waiting to sell it out of the house somewhere before they move in.
It could be 6 months sometimes.
Or it could be even
Yeah.
6 months, but at least 90 days. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not unusual that someone
Yeah,
waits
it's
a
not
while.
unusual.
I don't think no one's going to probably make a complaint. Just, oh, there's a new owner, they're coming, but they're waiting to do something else with their house, their old house.
Well,
It's going to
but
become an
if
issue.
so if a new person is buying it and they're not moving in yet, they're also not renting it. So is it not about when the new
you're still
owner should
owner.
occupy the property? It's just about that when the property is sold to
You'll
a new
own it.
owner,
Yeah.
what we're really saying is, even if the ADU wasn't owner occupied, like even if both units weren't owner occupied at the sale, it becomes an owner occupied situation at the time of sale. And so if it takes you 6 months to move into your property, but it's vacant and you're not renting it, then it's still
Doesn't matter.
owner occupied because you own it and you're not renting it out. But take
Not
out
there.
you have to move in by a certain time and just make some language around you lose the previous exemption of having these 2 units being rented when it's a new sale.
Right, I assume this was put in with the thought that someone might convey a property with a tenant in place and let the tenant stay. So the tenant just continues, and then, so, yeah, as long as it's going to be intended for that, I guess that's the legal clarification question for an attorney, a real
So-
estate attorney.
No,
What
this was-
language do we put in here then?
Well,
This was a-
if
was a grandfather.
I kind of thought it worked already. Upon the sale of conveyance to a different party, the new owner shall occupy the property within 90 days. That works, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't say anything about the tenant having to change.
Right.
So if a tenant continues, that's fine, as long as the person.
As long as it
They're gonna move in eventually.
becomes occupied by the new owner. They buy the house, the tenants can stay or not.
Okay.
But just briefly on the nuisance issue, I just think it's reasonable in residential neighborhoods to create a situation where nuisance is somewhat less likely. I understand Peyton's point that there are certainly responsible landlords that and professional management can substitute, but still, I think it's reasonable to create a situation where it's, in established residential neighborhoods, it's less likely that nuisances arise. So I just kind of feel like, it's not that obvious to me, but
I will, and I'll end here. I will say that in the court, hearings on this, say in North Carolina, where they've completely thrown out that language, and they found it impossible to justify owner-occupied. So there are multiple states where this has gone all the way, and they found it impossible to justify on any reasonable basis the requirement that the owner-occupied ADU is serving any public good. And then it does become a nuisance issue, and then it's dealt with as is. I mean, right now what we're doing, I'm not going to, I've already said what I'm.
I guess I don't understand how they were so unable to come up with a.
I don't think it's important for this discussion.
Peter?
So back when we first discussing this, I asked Michael if this was better, and Todd maybe too got into it, if it was better treated as a town ordinance and a nuisance issue and noise, because that seemed to be the justification. And they had a discussion. I'll let Michael summarize that if he wishes. But I think it's really important that if we're putting this in our zoning ordinance, that we are very clear that the reason we're doing it is because of the intent of the RSA, not because of nuisance issues,
Yes.
because that is not a land use, it doesn't belong in zoning. And not that I'm voting, but I would vote against it based on the nuisance, because that's not the purpose of a zoning ordinance. If the purpose is to better comply with the RSA, then we need to make it extremely clear that is our justification, because right now the paper trail is nuisance all the way through.
Why aren't we just completely covered by the RSA's explicit permission to do this?
I just think we need to make it clear that that is our justification for doing it, rather than because someone said, I'm tired of the noise in my neighborhood, I want ADUs owner occupied, and we have a letter in the record saying, I have asked for this change because of exactly that reason.
I think you could make the case that you're attempting to kneecap the state ADU by introducing this additional language.
But other towns have it already.
The state has explicitly
I
provided
understand.
for it.
They've provided for it, and we're going for it, and
And
in
I
my
think
mind,
that
we've said is because of what I think Sally put pretty well. It's accessory to the single-family home.
Yeah, and I think
it
we need to
aids
make that
us
clear.
in those
Well, I think
needs.
the folks who don't support the owner-occupied ADU are the ones who bring up the nuisance issues. I'm not voting for this because of nuisance issues, and there's nothing in that ordinance that talks about noise or pollution of any sort. So let the record show that this is one member who's supporting this precisely because it's an accessory dwelling unit. I find your argument very strong, and it compels me to support this.
I agree with what Richard just said.
Yeah, completely.
Oh, just one question. Under, so a new owner has 90 days. Hopefully we can do this. Now, you may have a situation, if it's an investment property, there may be a lease for the main house and the ADU, which could be, say, a year. So should F say occupy the property within 90 days of the conveyance, or if there is a lease on both units at the expiration of the lease?
Well,
But aren't you saying it's grandfathered, though?
Well, we're saying, we're hoping.
Try
under
not
F
to
that it would not be grandfathered.
If it's grandfathered, that's irrelevant, but it's not grandfathered.
But we're hoping that we're hoping we can do F, but if it's currently all investment and there's leases for another year, then you would not be able to occupy either one within 90 days. Should we say anything or just leave it the way it is?
Why do we have to have occupied? Because we have, if they want to lease it to somebody else, they have to occupy it for 3 years. Why are we once they have signed and closed escrow on this and own the property, they are the owners, whether they live in it for 5 years, it's empty for 5 years or whatever. It doesn't matter when they choose to live in it. Why do we have to have 90 days? Just what's the
That's just to give them a
logic.
chance to move in.
Yeah, but why do they have to move in?
I think what you're saying is
They don't have to meet the
Why can't they
owner
take
occupancy
why
requirement.
can't they take
Eventually.
their 2 years at the beginning? The 2 years out of 5 that they don't have to be there could come at the beginning.
It could.
Well, it could.
Or it could be
so-
empty. It could be empty for 2 years.
So perhaps the question that needs to be phrased to the town attorney in this regard is, we would like, I'm saying this from my perspective, but if everybody agrees, or if the majority agrees, we would like to create a situation where an existing owner who has rented both sides of a property is not allowed to have that practice continue for that property in perpetuity as a non-conforming use, but rather as an exception being granted for existing situations which might exist or might not. We probably don't think it's a great number of situations in town. We have ADUs that are both sides are now rented. So there may be a few exceptions, a few oddball things. We don't want to create a legal stumble for somebody who is currently in that situation, but we also don't want a new party coming along thinking that, oh, I've got a side backdoor to an issue here where all of a sudden I can buy this as an investment property, I don't need to live there.
That's why, it might be a good idea. I would actually suggest allowing the town administrator, under unusual circumstances, to grant some relief in keeping with the spirit of the ordinance.
Because there could be unusual things.
Because that could be, say, the 90 days, rather than try to figure out, like Peter's idea, if you take your 2 years first, have him go to the town administrator and he can, and keep
Is he going to volunteer for that?
Well, he's the like that's
I was going to say, I don't know if I would put that on Todd, but
if it went to the town administrator and say you had leases, the town administrator could say, fine, you got a year for both.
Yeah, he could.
You could take your 2 years at the start if you want, but then you're in for 3 years and we're going to watch it.
But when I read the definition of occupancy, owner occupancy, it says you may reside in one side or the other. That means you're on the lease, you take your stuff, whatever your stuff is. Some people's idea of stuff is a ton, and some people's is a mattress or just a coffee maker, and then they may go to Florida for the winter. It doesn't say you have to spend so many days here. It says you can demonstrate the primary place of residence by, all these official documents. But nobody's saying you got to be there for X number of days. Like the IRS, if you want to prove you live in Florida, you got to be there 6 months plus 1 day, or whatever that rule is. There's no rules like that here. You can just dump your stuff off and go travel the world. And
What's your legal address?
this is your legal
Where do
address.
you vote?
It doesn't say you have to be there looking out the window at the ADU to make sure people behave. It just says your junk could be sitting there, and you prove with these documents you're the one, but you can't also have your stuff there and rent it out to someone else.
That can't be
So
your
it's
legal
one unit's
address.
rented, the other unit's not rented. If somebody said,
nobody would want to do that.
if somebody rented both sides, then, you could argue and say, this is not your residence because somebody else lives here.
Yeah, you can't have that, because it would be your legal address, and you could only have that one place. You couldn't be renting out and allow your renter to use the same legal address as you.
I can't have two leases for
You
the
could-
property
you could-
on either
You could,
side.
yeah, I guess you could do that.
So I tried to
Be
rewrite
odd.
the last sentence of F. And I don't know, just to take out the 60 days, the 90 days part. So the sentence that starts however, I just wrote, however, upon sale or conveyance of the property to a different party, the previous non-conforming use allowance is terminated and the property must conform to the owner occupancy requirements.
It's worth a shot. Ultimately,
Yeah.
whether it's the language you propose, and I like it, it's similar to what I believe you were proposing as well, Michael.
As long as-
It's going to have to receive some legal scrutiny.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm
So-
not saying this is
No, but you're right, it's
exactly
just-
it, but it's just,
I think the real question is how the question is phrased to the attorney.
yeah.
Is it, Joe, is this okay like this, or here's our intent, this is what we want to do, how can we write it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was listening to what you were saying. We want to create a situation where an existing owner who has rented both units cannot perpetuate that condition post-sale.
Correct.
Exactly.
All right, so should we put in Emma's language?
Fine with that.
In lieu of that last sentence? Can you say
You
that
want to
again?
read it again? Yeah. However, upon sale or conveyance of the property to a different party, the previous non-conforming use allowance is terminated and the property must conform to the owner occupancy requirements.
Okay. I'll get that off.
It's a first stab. I'm not the lawyer, so I don't know if it's good enough.
drafted, though.
But it's, it's an attempt at saying what I think we're trying to say, and a lawyer can zhuzh it to be more legalese as needed.
Do you want to include any sort of relief from the town administrator or town council?
I wouldn't do that. I would not do that.
No, but
Because if
I
they're
think,
really looking for ways around it, there are some ways around it. There's the 2 years out of 5 thing. Like if someone's
pretty
really
hard to-
trying to figure out what to do, they can look elsewhere to figure out what to do, but we didn't need to make it easier.
I just think
Yeah,
Todd's
and
good enough.
when it-
Michael, do you have enough to make this go ahead? Because we've spent a lot of time and none of us
Yeah,
can
we-
answer it tonight.
yeah, let me ask one question, though. I mean, listening to everybody going around at the end, do you want to have a public hearing before the lawyer weighs in?
Yeah, I think we
That's
should
fine.
be able to get the lawyer to weigh in, the language to be revised or tossed to meet legal scrutiny, and that's what we're going out in front with, right? To the
Yeah.
public?
Well, how
I
long
think
does
the
it
lawyer
normally
should
take
go
her?
first before the public hearing, so that at least the language is sort of nailed down.
It depends
what
how long
Richard
it
just
Yeah,
said.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
That's what
agree.
Richard's saying, yeah.
But I'm just not saying that we got to see it first and agree with the lawyer before we schedule the public hearing.
Right.
We just need the
Agreed.
language inserted in there that meets the legal scrutiny, and that's what we're selling to the public.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Providing.
So keep in mind that there's a good chance that I will speak
Board meetings
with,
a week from now?
we will meet Todd Selig, the town
Oh, good
attorney, and
point,
Audrey
mhm.
Klein and I, and there's a good chance that she will be emphatic and say there's no way to do it.
Well, then have her explain clearly
Oh,
why.
yeah, well, she said before, grandfathering stays with the property, not with sale. Now, this is different from,
I don't-
this is not a physical building or even a use, but do
Yeah,
you
so I
want
was,
to?
but it has to do with making property financially viable potentially, which falls into one of the rules for what becomes vested, how you get something vested in property. I was trying to look it up while you guys were talking, and it's complicated, which is why I ain't going to try to make a call on it.
Yeah, so we could, here's your choice. It'll take, probably a number of days to get a clarification from the town attorney. And if we could do a hearing on the 10th, we'd have to put the ad in tomorrow. Or we could plan on the hearing on the 24th of June.
I think that's safer.
June
24th gives you
Okay.
plenty of breathing room,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
Plus, we can then, make sure we think it's right, because we can always,
Do we need a motion on that?
Do we?
If you want to.
No, I mean, if that's the
No.
Not for
sense of the
scheduling a
board.
public hearing,
Yeah.
no.
You just.
So that's what I'll do. The hearing will be the 24th, and we'll get clarification from the town attorney and incorporate the language that she and Todd Selig, the Todd authorizes, ultimately. Unless you want me to bring something back to you on the 10th, final language?
well, I think,
Oh,
I
okay.
think that would be
So we'll
good.
final
If they
final
have
language
it-
on the 10th.
If it's ready, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should see it and,
We'll give the attorney a deadline.
I have
Yeah.
a question.
yeah.
Paul,
Yes.
I have a question.
Julian?
Michael, did you draft this ordinance, this proposal?
Gary and I worked on it.
I'm sorry?
Gary Whittington and I worked on it.
Okay, good. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
All right. Next item is the architectural standards. How long do we want to go on this?
Till 9.
Till
I think
9?
we can get it done tonight as long as we
And
don't
then-
I think we
get
can
too
as
hung
long
up
as we
on
don't
some
get
of
too
the
hung up.
simple words.
I'm good
And I
with-
left
I'm good with
Beth's
exactly the way-
comments in yellow on your table, too.
Are we starting on page 23?
Simple words always come back to haunt you, though.
Yeah,
In my old age, I'm aware of simple words.
well, like Peyton had a lot of words to it, and I like them, and I don't have any objection to, like, the stuff that Peyton was adding. What I just mean is that sometimes we can haggle over stuff that doesn't get us anywhere.
Let's not make mincemeat of the
I would agree with you.
You would, huh?
I would be like on page 7, the review of proposed designs.
I thought we were on 23.
Michael, did we just add that?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
part of your-
I suggest that language. I came up with that.
So page 7, paragraph E5. Does anybody disagree with that? I think it
I
makes a
think
lot of
it's-
sense.
I think it's overcomplicated.
review of proposed designs.
Do we need to?
Paragraph.
On page 7, it's at the top of the page 5.
All that blue.
Why do you think it's overcomplicated?
Okay.
Well, I
well,
think it can be vague, and I think it can be overcomplicated.
The only comment I had on 5C was whether we need to specify who pays for it.
Well, that's a question. You could do either way. Generally, any consultant, like a third-party traffic consultant, stormwater consultant, applicant always pays. However, with architecture review, that's an additional thing that's really for the benefit of the town. The HDC should never charge an applicant for any outside review. So you could go either way on that.
50/50?
I think leaving it as higher is just that's a TBD on who pays. It's just the,
Oh,
if
careful.
there's a,
Oh, it won't be, they have to hire.
but in the moment,
It needs
if-
to be clear.
It
if
does,
the board wants to hire someone, then in
It
the
needs
moment.
to be
The board will
clear.
never
figure
hire
out how
someone.
gets
It needs
paid
to
for.
be clear because when an
it
applicant
other
puts
ways,
together,
pays.
by the time an applicant gets to this point, they've invested a ton of money, and for us to be throwing additional fees
Yeah,
on
I
them
agree.
is not fair.
Yeah, I think the town, frankly, I think the town should pay for it. It's a special thing. You want you want goodwill and cooperation from the applicant. You don't want irritation that, man, I gotta pay an architect and now you're making me pay your third party.
2 architects.
Yeah, I think the town should pay for it. Are you all right with that?
I think
then
that-
we
I-
can
I-
control
And
it. The
cut them
planning board
off
may
when we
hire.
said we spent too much.
Well, I mean, it's at our options, right? So we can always make the decision of how we want to try to manage it. That's what we can determine at the time. But if we do go with a qualified professional, it's on our penny.
Yeah.
And I think that the
But I
town.
think that's already implied. If it's the sentence would be, the planning board may hire a qualified professional. That assumes that the planning board is paying for it. Or, you know, not the planning board, but like the town, it doesn't assume that
No, it
payment
doesn't.
would be on the applicant.
It actually does, because the standard process with other professionals, as I say, like traffic, stormwater, the town hires, they work for us, but the applicant pays for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Every
That's the way it
They
goes.
pay for it.
outside
We'll pay for it.
engineering analysis, traffic,
grammatically,
water.
that makes no sense. That's where my hangup is. so.
You mean they would get pushback for some aesthetic things, and then now they're being cross-charged to
Yeah.
defend their position.
Oh,
When
yeah,
they've
yeah,
already
yeah.
hired
I
an
don't think the
architect.
applicant should be on the hook for paying. My only issue is with the grammar here.
Well, yeah, it should be clear.
So-
If you agree, the town.
Do we say town hired, qualified, just get rid of the word "a" and have town hired, qualified professional, including an architect, blah, 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 blah. Is that all we need to do there? Town hired. Town hired,
Grammatically,
qualified.
We already have the planning board, we already have the planning
Should it
board
be town
hired.
paid as opposed to town
Yeah,
hired?
Hire
planning
at the
board
town's
may
expense.
Hire a town-paid
Oh,
qualified professional, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
Because the concern here is the town would hire, but then they would cross-charge the applicant.
Yes.
So it's a question of payment,
Oh,
not
I
a
see.
question of hiring.
Hire and compensate.
Right.
Gary had good words.
Yeah, hire and compensate, or
Yeah.
hire at the town expense.
Hire at
I like hire.
One of the,
At town expense.
hire and
Or
compensate.
hire at town
at
expense.
town expense.
Same thing.
Yep. So we're off page 7? Or we still have concerns?
How about E,
E.
5E?
I'm okay with that.
What about the language who have the requisite background?
Yeah, I don't like that.
That is really,
I don't like it.
All right, or just individual.
I mean, I understand there's like a,
Yeah, I think
No,
the
that
whole,
goes, yeah, right. Or say, or individual
I mean,
planning
what are we
board
gonna
members.
do? Are we gonna demonstrate we took an art history or an architecture
How about-
class in our sophomore
yeah.
year somewhere and therefore we do or we don't? And
And
is there gonna be some, I'm sorry.
I think I would go further than what Mr. McMahon is saying. We got rely on A, B, and E. And I think in all of those things, the connotation is reliance as in they'll decide. It's the planning board's decision.
Yeah.
So the planning board says,
collective.
in order to obtain the guidance and review of proposed design for conformance to these standards, the planning board may obtain input from
Correct.
the town planner, comments from the public, qualified professionals hired by the town at their expense, a committee of the planning board, and the whole planning board collectively.
There you go.
Not-
Way simpler.
Get rid of the rely and just say, these are
Obtain
these are
input from-
inputs that you can get.
May obtain input from.
So A, B, and E would be obtain input from?
No, you can put that at the very beginning. Review of the proposed, in order to obtain guidance and review and proposed design for conformance to these standards, the planning board may obtain input from. Then, A is the town planner.
Oh, I see.
Take out rely
Yeah.
upon. B is comments from the public.
Right.
Professionals.
C is a hired professional at the town's expense. C is a committee proposed to the planning board, and the last one is the planning board itself,
Very good.
taking out the requisite background
Right.
business.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
E would be obtain, well, how would you read E? Obtain input from the planning board collectively or individually?
No.
It would be the planning board
Planning
collectively.
board
Yeah,
collectively.
yeah.
The planning board
Yeah,
collectively?
period, yeah. Take out the individual planning board members, just,
Really, the only new content in this is C. Everything else is implicit.
Yeah, but it reads well now.
In the rewording it is now.
Much
I
better.
mean,
All right.
but just in terms of,
if we want to make
you're
it
trying to do a
shorter.
design review, yeah. You
It's
can have
only-
public
this is-
comment if you
The
want.
only substance here is the design
Yeah.
review, everything else
Essentially.
would be done anyway. Just deciding, and everything else is in the process.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you very much for going through that.
But I don't want to make that extensive of
All
a
right.
revision.
So now do we jump into page 23?
We have nothing else we have to address in these pages?
I would say only on page 16. So if this is supposed to be the draft, we still have one that says inappropriate and it says missing photo. So either we just don't go through all the inappropriates.
No, that's not a missing photo, that's,
Well, mine says, does that say?
oh, no, but that is the photo.
What page are we on?
The
16?
post office. I didn't put missing photo there.
Oh, 50.
Oh, well, you
It's-
could
it's the
printed
correct
it.
Why does it say missing photo, yeah?
Oh, I don't know. That probably is from Beth and Robin, but
Need to
it does
lose
show
that.
the post office there.
So we're going to fix that new mark.
Yeah, yeah. And the actual
Okay.
ordinance, when, I think this is
It
based
is
on
just a-
Beth and Robin's good work in, but some of the formatting got messed up. The final one is, the formatting is very clear.
Okay.
I know, but I would say putting in a federal building is inappropriate. It's not really doing us much good. It's not really describing something that we would
Even
have
if
control
many
over.
federal buildings are ugly as sin.
Oh, okay. All right, all right. All right, page
They're
what?
brick boxes.
21?
23.
Oh, 23.
Where are we now?
Page 23.
23.
Can we,
What about page 20?
I had something on 21, actually, too.
All right, let's go to
Quickly.
20.
It's not just my.
What do you get on 20?
What's wrong with 20?
Comment from 8.
So on 20, section 2, page 20, section 2, maximum height criteria.
Which,
When we're,
okay.
so maximum height per criteria, we're already specifying, we're by right 3 and 4 stories. By right 4 stories.
Yeah, this is confusing.
So why are we talking about
Canyon effect.
their canyon effect and then taller than 3 stories architectural and then there's height and mass? Don't they have right to 4 stories?
No, it's, you still have that right. This is just saying, the
This is an
technique should to
architectural standard.
mitigate the sense of the height. You still can have built to that height.
But they say shall not be so tall.
I think the point
It-
was the 3-story eve line was kind of what had been established as the critical line in the downtown as appropriate scale.
Do we just remove the first 2 words on 2? Maximum height? Should it just be for criteria for taller buildings?
Yes, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
starts
right,
with just
right,
the
right,
new
right,
blue
right.
text at the bottom, with buildings that are taller than 3 stories, architectural techniques, blah, blah, blah. That's all of section 2, or
Yeah.
point 2, or whatever.
You gotta
So it's
use-
criteria for
But
taller
then all of a
buildings.
sudden, do you start getting into this like canyon effect debate thing coming back
Not if you
around?
take
and
that
people
Right,
part
take
out.
it all
Take
out.
that
Yeah, well, I'm
off.
saying
Start-
take that first sentence out.
Start with
Agreed.
buildings that
Only
are.
the new blue text that starts with buildings that are taller than 3 stories. That's the whole
We need to
point
lose the
2
canyon
text.
effect.
So take out the
Everything
first
before
sentence?
that.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, remove all the red and black, all
Oh,
of
yeah, it is
that.
the first
Right,
sentence.
start with the blue with buildings that are
Okay.
taller than.
Right, right.
And lose maximum height and just have criteria for taller
Yeah,
buildings.
yeah. Should it say, see definition of human scale, say at the end of that?
No.
No.
No, it should not.
No, because, no.
All right.
Because I think we even talked about that somewhere else.
Yeah, we do. The very next, the top of page 21 says,
Oh, it's
building
the-
height conforms to zoning ordinance. So that's where, it's saying you can go to whatever that height is that's allowed.
Right.
I'm sorry, did you just make a change in it?
No,
No.
no.
No, we're
you're
just
just
explaining
commenting,
the top of 21.
So 20,
On page 12 at the top,
12.
well, at that page, it says planning board wanted to revisit that paragraph.
Oh,
You want me to go back to page 12?
Top of page 12 in green.
Or in courthouse here.
Oh, is it the as close to the street as practical line?
I
that
guess.
Wanted to be revisited?
I don't remember.
Okay, what are we looking at?
Oh,
that we
I mean,
want-
I think it's, I'm not sure what there was concern about.
I don't either.
Well, we've talked a couple
Building
times
shall be
about
placed.
courtyards being a
having-
good thing. And we certainly were talking about with regard to the downtown 5 stories setback at one point, 50 feet, as an alternative to a notch at the top of the building. So.
I mean,
would-
the paragraph is sort of best practices.
Okay, here's my problem with it, though. This paragraph makes everything in courthouse non-conforming.
What page are we talking about?
12.
12,
At the top.
12.
Like courthouse district.
What is that?
I mean, think about it. Every single property has parking in front of the front facade of the building.
Oh,
In
why don't you,
courthouse?
instead of that, what you want
The
me to
courthouse
say?
doesn't, the hotel doesn't.
Hotel does.
They have parking in the.
It's on the side of
It's on
it,
the
but it's in
side.
front of the front facade.
It's
So
there for.
what's your
I'm just saying, we're saying do stuff that it's totally inappropriate in the existing
Well, we're saying if
No, but it
practical,
says directly in front of the building.
we're
It
practical.
doesn't say on the side of the building. It can be along the frontage. It says with no parking situated directly in front of a building. And
No
I-
closer to the street than the main wall of the building.
I'm looking,
The very last phrase.
it's not, parking may be placed at the side of the building, provided the parking area is no closer to the street. Oh, well, yeah, we gotta remove that. You're right about that. May be placed at the side of the building.
All right, period. Maybe placed at the side of the building, period.
Yeah, because they're all placed at the side of the building. And they are all closer than,
Yeah, all right. Just side of the building, period, and delete the last phrase, provided the parking area.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a really dumb question?
Not if it's really dumb.
It might be really dumb.
It might be.
It could qualify.
Will it provide levity for us?
So this whole thing is sort of predicated on the idea, and I know this from having done readings on the subject of, trying to create a streetscape where you sort of have the building facades all lined up right along the edge of the street, so there's few interruptions, and it makes sort of a continuous motion of the downtown. So as you're walking along, you go from storefront to storefront, to storefront.
I thought we
What-
wanted variation.
What percentage, if you actually just go out and walk around the downtown? I mean, everybody says, oh, oftentimes what I hear is people say, oh, we love the downtown the way it is. There's a lot of broken up parts of it right now. This is not like a major downtown. Like, if you think about some of the I'm thinking of the downtown streets, a couple of them in downtown Newburyport, where you've got a long 500, 1,000, 2,000, maybe 1,500 feet of sort of uninterrupted building facade. This old building fronts that were all built that way. That doesn't really exist here. So it might be a romantic notion that we want to encourage, as opposed to, is it sort of, it's in here because we think that's what existed, but when you really look at it, it's not quite what exists today.
Where are you in the, what page?
Right, that section, that
He's still commenting on.
page 12,
Page 12.
right, what we were just talking about having them placed as close to the street to the possible. Do we really want that? Is that,
And why?
well, I understand the reasons why if you want to do it. So if you want an uninterrupted streetscape that has, lots of storefronts and shops that you can visually, you can see them and they don't have one going in and one going out. But is that the true desired outcome of whatever?
Not in courthouse.
Yeah.
I mean, the traffic on 108, I don't care what you do with the buildings, nobody's going to actually feel comfortable.
Yeah, courthouse is quite varied.
So
Yeah.
is this,
So does that apply just to
Courthouse.
the downtown core areas?
No, this paragraph is specifically for the courthouse zone.
Go back to 11. This is a continuation of page 11.
My humble apologies, I'm so sorry.
But I think you're right. Other buildings could be set back and have patios with eating areas, like you see like in the old Exxon
Well,
area.
all right,
but not
guys,
maybe for
we are
here.
never going to get anywhere if we keep.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Can we get
have-
to page 23 now?
But the challenge is if you don't do it now, you're going to do it later. And then
nobody's-
later is going
nobody's
to be even more
providing-
confusing.
Later's going to be in 15 years.
No, I agree. In courthouse, I don't think the line buildings shall be placed as close to the
No,
street
well,
as practical.
I-
It should apply there.
After, we are going to, within a couple of years, we'll probably come back and readdress this. Because at that point, we will have finished doing a lot of the other work with regards to providing the zoning that the town council asked for with regards to
Increasing the core.
the downtown core adjacent areas. And the zone lines are going to be changing, and we're going to want to come back and readdress and say, at that point. Anyway, so a good enough for this right now should be okay.
Especially for the adjacent zones. Courtyard's not that big anyway.
This is year one of a 20-year project to change downtown growth.
I mean-
It's not going to happen all in this document in every section.
True. Okay. Are we 21?
What we're trying
are we
to
in?
do is get this finished so we can
Can I go to,
incentivize someone to build in downtown.
Are we on page 23 now?
I would like to,
Gary has something, yeah.
Peyton's language on page 13, no single architecture, beginning, no single architectural style is required. I wanted to, there was an open issue because Citizen Oshansky's letter was raising objections to the introduction of the word, of the contemporary architecture. And I just wanted to state my position that I agree that it's fine to refer to contemporary architecture. I would propose that it be reworded slightly, but I basically agree with the substance of this. And and arguing for the inclusion of contemporary architecture, I think that it's important that we be self-aware about this demographics of, a population of relatively old people, who are not going to be stakeholders for as long as the people who are going to have to live with the with the zoning ordinance. We should be, not imagining that we know everything about what could be beautiful. But I propose the following language as kind of
For where?
a better, maybe perhaps more refined statement.
So are you redoing the whole paragraph or just?
Yes, the whole blue paragraph of page.
All right.
It's basically the
Start
same.
reading.
I would say it's the same in substance, but maybe slightly more refined. The commercial core shall remain predominantly traditional or neo-traditional. However, high-quality contemporary buildings that are distinctly beautiful in context are also appropriate.
That works. I'm not sure people will like the word beautiful, but
Yeah, that's what.
Or are attractive or
textual or some harmonious, respectful.
Harmonious is
Harmonious.
better than,
Yeah, I'll go with that.
are
Harmonious with the
surrounding
surroundings.
Yeah.
You're going along with that word?
Well, what you just said with the harmonious surrounding buildings, yeah.
attractive.
harmonious means it's fitting in with its surroundings.
Yeah. Can you read that
Beautiful
again?
is subjective.
The commercial core shall remain predominantly traditional or neo-traditional. However, high-quality contemporary buildings that are distinctly rather than distinctly, just say that are harmonious in context are
Yeah.
also appropriate. I think that's what you've been, your language has been saying.
I would just
Yes.
change appropriate to welcome, or welcome instead of are
Yeah,
appropriate.
instead of appropriate sounds.
That's a nice
Use
word.
welcome
That's a very
welcome.
nice
instead of
word.
appropriate. It just
Fine.
seems, it's a more
Because Durham
welcoming.
is a welcoming.
Because you're
community.
encouraged.
Yeah, that's 'cause we're-
Well, but that's just it.
Yeah.
I had a problem with encouraging
And
this. and-
I just thought that, when you, strong
We're not
proportions, I didn't know
encouraging,
quite what that
we're
meant,
I think that's good. Or I assume that's fine with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
So welcome is a toned down encourage.
Yes.
Yes.
So now are we on 23?
We good to 23
Be on
now?
page 23.
All right, where do we leave off at 23? The roof?
Oh, Paul's comments?
Because we're good with it.
My comments were handled in the last update that's what currently,
Okay.
that we passed. So we're looking at the roof.
Aha, so we're on 24.
Where are we?
So Gary's in blue would just take the place of, that would take the place of the paragraph above it, right?
Top of 24, Richard.
Gary, on page 24, the lack of a pitched roof is just in place of the special treatment required above, right?
Right.
Starting at the second sentence, okay.
The lack of a pitched
Yeah,
roof.
yeah.
That's just, basically, that's purely stylistic, trying to capture exactly what you were saying in slightly.
No, I think that,
more
yeah, it's
refined
good.
way.
So just after the first sentence, yeah.
Yeah, so much simpler. That's way better.
So we're taking the very first paragraph off and
Just the first
replacing it with,
sentence, and then Gary's in blue.
okay.
Okay. Anything more on 23? 24?
Oh, we just did 24, didn't we?
25?
Wait, on 25, we have another Beth Oshansky comment relating to the idea of referring to flat roofs potentially, and I wanted to address a question to the town planner regarding that. Remember, we're talking about now CB1, okay? And we're talking about pitched roofs. And the reason that I wrote it this way, with including a reference to possible flat roofs with our significant mitigating elements, was because I didn't think that we had ever really come to the conclusion that everything in CB1 should always have a pitched roof, and that indeed
Right.
it could be excessively uniform or monotonous, and that appropriately designed flat roof that is harmonious could actually be more attractive if it were good in context. That's why I put that in. And I think Citizen Oshansky, however,
Citizen O'Shea.
But I know that we have the one building on Jenkins Court
yeah,
that was
I mean,
required
we don't know.
to
We'll
be-
find out when we get
Right, so
application.
Gary's language,
Heather's talking.
so I'm sorry, so Gary's language would just, top of page 25, the second blue would take the place of the first blue, right?
Yes.
Okay. I assume that's okay with everyone.
And the other justification for the flat roof is that there was an example on Jenkins Court where the owner of that building said he was required to make that a flat roof because of the drainage system that was required for that lot. And that one red building,
Yeah, the box.
the box, which I actually find kind of cute because I kind of like the
I like it
But
red.
anyway, that was required to be a flat roof. And he has because of the way the drainage system was being designed.
Okay.
Just as an FYI.
Yeah, I never quite understood that, but I do remember Mr. Christie saying that, yeah.
It's still a nice looking building.
It is, yeah.
Compared to the one on the corner, which is
It's colorful. I like the red.
Has good sushi.
Oh, yeah, I like the sushi.
All right, anything else on 25? 26 is all pictures.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. 27. What was my comments regarding 2 and 3?
Then it's on page, yours is on page 29.
Right. And part of that is because if you take a look at the 3 chimneys window picture that's right above my comment, that is exactly the kind of window I'm talking about that I would tear out of my house because I hate them as a resident.
Pains, yeah.
yeah, but you wouldn't be able to, and
So what change do you want to make?
Well, it's...
The thing is, the example on that was only really talking about the rich trim. It didn't say, these are the kind of panes we want.
I mean, all those.
With horizontal, vertical,
Stressing the single.
No, well, it's the, I think it's the, in cases where horizontal ribbon windows make, so there should be.
Where's that at?
The primary window style shall be double hung, where there are a limited number of fixed windows may be used where deemed appropriate to the overall design. So this is where I'm talking about is like if they're all double hung, then the idea of having a picture window where you can really look at a vista is being made, is sort of it's like, yeah, maybe we'll allow it if it makes sense type, is what the way I'm reading number 3 with regards to the window
Yeah, I mean,
style.
the only place in a downtown, at least central business, where picture windows appropriate is large panes of glass at storefronts. Otherwise, they're pretty unsightly. And if you really want a big picture window, you probably shouldn't be living downtown.
you're not going to have it in the historic district. It's not going to fly.
Yeah, they wouldn't allow a
Yeah.
picture window there.
No, it
either.
would be like the chimneys.
And 3 kind of gives you, if you go to N3, the last sentence there kind of gives you a limited number of fixed windows. Those which have one window, sash, and frame and do not open may be used. Maybe get rid of the do not open piece, but outside of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah. And then so there's an extra 1 there, right after my comment.
Oh, yeah, just cross that out.
Okay. Oh, I think that's that might have been some wording. Okay, whatever. All right, 20, so we got up to 30? Mm-hmm. 31? 30, there's some comments on 31. 32, actually, it's on 32.
And what are you referencing there, Chair, on that aesthetic discussion?
So it has to do with, somewhere in here, we say 4-inch clapboards, I think.
It's the reveal of the clapboard.
Yeah, Paul is saying rather than 4 inch, 6 inches. I think that's fine. I mean, 4 inches is nice, but a little, a little flexibility is fine. 4 inches I think is better than 6, but we're talking about the minimum, so, a little flexibility is reasonable.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the building, too.
Well, that's true. That's, right.
So do we?
But that all comes in under proportions and everything.
So is it 4 to
Yeah,
6?
well,
Yeah, Paul suggests changes from 4 to 6.
No, but I'm saying offer the range, not say it's 6.
Yeah,
Say it is 4 to 6.
Well, that's true. That's not a minimum. That's just showing. Oh,
right,
okay.
because the paragraph number 5 is specifying an exact value.
Yeah.
And I'm asking for a range.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a maximum, not a minimum.
Do you want to say 4 to 6 or just 4 to 6?
You're saying up to 6.
I'm saying 4 to 6. 4 to 6, I would be good with 4 to 6.
That's pretty.
That's pretty common.
Good.
That's
That's common.
two very common standard
yeah.
sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's gonna propose 2?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of waste.
And 8 starts just to look, I don't know.
Looks ugly.
All right. Yeah. Just say 4 to 6. I mean,
That's-
that covers.
Yeah, thank you.
And we've got inappropriate materials are thin brick or false brick facades.
Yeah.
But
They have to use
isn't-
real brick?
Isn't that sort of the product nowadays?
That's what
And
the-
I'm looking,
that is the
Rob
product
can weigh in on
nowadays.
that, or?
Well, it's thin brick on the new Pettybrook, that brick building on Pettybrook, where they used to have the pizza, Papa John's.
10 Pettybrook.
Yeah, 10 Pettybrook. That's a thin brick, and it looks thin, and it's
think
probably
so.
not going to last. It's not going to last 50 years. I don't think.
It's a cost thing.
Well, but the
I would just say that it may be a pet peeve of yours, but I go along that area all the time and I never looked at that building and
Totally
said, that's really got crappy brick on
And
it.
when we look at building ephyses now, are they
man.
solid brick or are they
No.
thin brick, thin stone?
Most of it's a veneer.
Yeah.
It's not a 4-inch brick.
is most bricks a veneer now, but is it thin brick or full width brick? Do you know?
It's a thinner brick.
No, it's a lot of it's thin. Like if you look at the green building that the Froyo was in, the Insomnia Cookies building, that all those columns are thin brick.
It's all
One
thin.
reason I know that is because some are falling off right now.
Yeah, exactly. People don't love that building.
Yeah. But I'm just saying the brick,
who are these
if it's
people?
maintained,
Well,
you don't
sometimes
have
it's
to.
there.
I hate to say it. I've heard more complaints about. I have no more comments. Anyway, you
Got a
could
great
say
patio.
that and just CB1.
Now, why
no
don't we just
thin brick.
not?
You know what? That could be completely cost prohibitive. If you're just requiring them to use real brick, they should be able to use.
Tell us if that's whether.
It's gonna cost you a lot of money to put a regular full brick on there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would just take it out.
Well, the other thing is that building materials evolve. They don't, there are sometimes the best laid plans of people with new types of materials gang agley, but but there are some great new materials too. And just because they cost less doesn't mean they're not better. It just depends.
So are you comfortable with allowing thin brick?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think it's all about the quality of how is it put on, and sometimes you look at a rock wall and you think it's a solid rock, but it's really, it's been sliced and it's only
We
2
can't,
inches.
we can't say we can't
All right,
be
I'll
quiet.
take
Can we say or brick high quality? I don't know, can we
No,
say
we-
some, can we kind of
Just
put
pull
in
out the
some kind of
thin brick.
signal that we
What?
want high
Just pull
quality
out that
materials?
thick ring.
Yeah, it's in there, it's already in there, so like,
It's just
look at the
red
last
brick.
one, look at
Yeah,
the last
so
bullet. I mean,
if we're doing that,
high quality simulated brick.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll take that out.
Hand up over here.
No, I'm not, I'm just sitting weird.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on page 34.
So we've got Gary's in blue in place of the second sentence.
I believe we are on 34.
So now the big debate about how ugly is the color.
Oh,
This will take us the rest of, until 9 o'clock easy, is my thought.
Color.
Why are we,
I think Gary's words work there, and
this is just redrafting the same concept again. This no.
I think.
I mean, I just came back from the Caribbean, and believe me, the bright colors down there are just wonderful to look at, but, you know,
But
can't use
this
them
is
here.
dismal
somebody-
New England, man. I mean,
But if
that's what
somebody
we're all about.
remembers-
I like the adjective you chose.
It is just
if somebody
different
comes
depending
up
on where you
with
are.
a great, if somebody comes up with a great color scheme and it dazzles us, we can waive this color problem.
And
We're
I-
trying to set a
Yes.
vibe here.
That's
so
Yeah.
That is
I
my
like
hope.
what Gary said though.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's the, and they can present it and try to, and see how it flies. Colors do
Yeah, I mean, Paul,
run
you
with
delete
regions.
two if you think that's not appropriate. That's, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
You want
I
to just
mean,
delete two? Yeah, I hear what you're saying, yeah. Is that all right, delete two?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
wow, that was quick. All right,
See, we got through it.
the types of colors shown below are not appropriate. Yeah.
Excuse me, just a point of clarification. So, under R1, the sentence that starts with bright colors are generally inappropriate is struck. And Gary's suggestion of bright colors may be used is what's taking its place?
Yeah, so in place of actually the third sentence.
Some discernment. I think
Discretion.
it's the some discernment sentence, right? Is that what's coming out, Michael, or both sentences? Is it?
Well, I was thinking it was the third sentence, bright colors are generally inappropriate, but may be used in limited accent areas. Put your sentence in place?
Well, I think,
Or do you want to delete the second one as well?
I think the second and third could both go.
Okay.
I was thinking of third
All
and
right.
fourth.
I mean,
But, all
yeah,
right,
third, the last two sentences.
Oh, okay,
everything from bright colors to the end of the paragraph.
all right.
Because he brings those two into the same,
Right, but you want to keep the primary high-intensity bold metallic fluorescent should not be used?
Yes,
Oh, keep that.
keep
Okay.
that.
Do we need three? Isn't
All right,
the
do we
new
need-
sentence accomplishing?
I'm sorry, subtle colors you're talking about?
Yeah. Do we need that? Isn't Gary's new sentence in one basically accomplishing the same thing?
It also talks about neutral colors in the blend, so it doesn't really matter what building it is, right? In one.
Yeah.
It's a
So, yeah,
different
is
con-
three
It's a little
just-
bit of a
It's a little,
different
I think
concept.
brings in the mass of the building, so.
It's a little bit different concept, isn't it?
Yeah, but
And it talks about, hey, you got a
it's
small
still
building.
just saying,
It can be red.
use your bright
You can have
colors
those small
as
red
accents. I don't think it matters, like bright colors as an accent, it doesn't matter if it's on a big building or a small building. we're saying bright colors should be an accent regardless of the size of the building, so then why talk about,
Well, I think what they're-
This is-
what-
Why require
what
subtle colors?
3 is saying is different, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but I think what it's saying is if you had a very small building, the whole building might serve as an accent in the context of the streetscape.
Yeah, you could get away with
You
a
could get away with a little
bolder on
bit
a
less
smaller
muted colors. I
building.
think that's the concept. I mean, I don't really have an
Well,
opinion
the-
on it, because
The examples you have at the bottom
anyway,
of
so.
the page, though, are all smaller buildings with bright colors, and you're saying, no, 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 no.
Well, those are especially like,
Those are commercial.
yeah, very commercial colors.
The one on the far left, we're gonna
You don't
see
have
here
Dunkin's
shortly.
on there yet.
Yeah, that's
Right?
Dunkin's.
Which one's that?
Yeah, what's
That's Dunkin' Donuts
Dunkin's,
right
pink
there,
and
isn't
orange.
it?
Oh, I think their design was a little muted, though.
Yeah. wait till
Yeah.
it's up.
If
It's
I'm
Dunkin's.
maybe wishful thinking on my part.
It's fine.
yeah, their orange is their orange, that's a branded trademarked color, they're not changing it to a different orange.
Yeah, they can't change
They
their
change the
Okay.
background colors, they don't change
We're
the...
on page 35?
I don't know, are we?
Yeah,
I
we're
gotta
still
read
talking about
multiple-
number 3 on page 34. Did not come to, so I don't
I don't
care
have,
one way or the other,
I don't have
really, whether it stays or goes.
I don't,
I just thought, if you look at a subtle, I'm gonna go back to Clark's property. That had something that we've never had before, which was the
metal
deep,
panels.
yeah, brown metal panels and stuff. Would anybody be considering that a subtle, or not? Because I think what you got there is really, really nice. And I think what I see is what you don't want to have is an entire row of buildings that are tan or sage green. And that's our entire town. I mean, that's, what I think you don't really want to see.
So do you want to, you're saying remove 3?
Yeah. Because you're already saying that you can have that up at the front, and I think that you have some sort of way to have accent colors, so. I don't know.
I think it could go.
Take out 3?
I mean, assuming that all these buildings are going to be designed by an architect, I think they know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got some good guiding language in it.
I think we don't need 3. 4 does, I think, a good job at talking about how you should be using colors on a building.
Yeah, that
and,
makes sense.
yeah. And brick should be red or reddish brown. Not that weird color that's on.
So since we now have a freestanding Dunkin's, do we want to take out the picture of the Dunkin'?
At least it doesn't have the Dunkin' logo on it. Okay, are we on?
Well, if you notice their sign was
35.
the orange stripe.
Yeah, I didn't-
Do we need S? I mean, we have lighting standards elsewhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we don't.
Right.
If we have lighting standards.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
And-
okay.
I mean, this simply, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure our lighting standards talk about the type of fixtures to be using, especially once we bring in the ones for the nature friendly.
Yeah, I think it's redundant. So
Well,
take-
but do you want to hold S lighting of buildings and reference the appropriate section of the,
I don't see a problem with that.
Oh, well,
what
they
they should
have
be
to go
looking
through
at?
that anyway, show that, everything in the site regs, up high.
right?
Okay.
All right, just take out S?
And you have to then you have to
Have to relabel all the others.
relabel everything after that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's automatic.
Just shall comply with other town lighting regulations.
Shall comply, yeah.
Yeah, you don't need it because it's already in the regs.
All right, in the middle of 35, sitting at Clark's in the afternoon, we want to be able to, and this is where I would look towards someone with more experience in Windows to say, to provide some input as to what's a reasonable level of tint where you still get the transparency, but you kill down a little bit that direct glare from this late day sun.
They're still going to have shades, though, I don't really see what the big deal is having shades. There's some that are almost
and-
transparent now. You can still see out, but
That's what
stuff
most of the
that-
office buildings have now.
Yeah, I mean, I
They all
don't
have
see
tint.
what the big deal is. They're using the more transparent shades everywhere.
Why are we saying we want them to be untinted? So you can
It's
look
very
in?
unfriendly. You can be, some downtowns, there's like almost blackish windows. It's hostile to the street.
So
I think
you-
most
You want to
would-
be looking in.
Yes, you want to be able to see the
Very
people
translucent.
inside who are enjoying themselves.
How about if you say that windows shall not be tinted to a degree where the intent is to obscure view in or out?
Well, window tint is a percentage. We can also just say windows shall not be tinted more than 10% or
What do
whatever
we-
it is.
Yeah, but we're not, I mean, how are we going to know what the appropriate tint level is? I mean,
And
We can do a tiny bit of research and find out what window tint classification specs are, and any architect and developer is going to
have that.
have to be able to figure out what does a 10% tinted window look like versus a 15% tinted window, or whatever, wherever we set the parameter. Like, that's not a hard piece of information to find if we just want to say, you can have a little tint if this is reasonable.
Does anyone have a good idea of what that would say or anything? Does anyone know about the engineering of windows, about whether there is such a product that provides maybe more tint for light coming in, but
Well, I can
Most-
offer
most-
what
most
I've
windows
just
He's
learned.
just, I was gonna say, somebody's gonna Google
We
this.
got an answer
Go
here.
ahead,
Go
Richard.
ahead, Richard.
20%.
It's called visible light transmission,
Yeah.
VLT, okay? And actually, the lower the number, the darker the appearance. So 5% tint is referred to as limo tint. Extremely dark. So 35% medium dark tint balances privacy, heat reduction, and visibility, common choice for side and rear windows. But I think we're still talking about cars.
Yeah.
Perhaps this is something that we really should be entrusting to their architects and their professionals in this, because they may have an intention as to what kind of tint they want, depending upon their, again, where the building is, the sun that's coming in at it, what the ambiance they are looking for in their building. I just think that we're micromanaging here.
I agree with you. I just don't feel right delving
Yeah.
into this anymore. I feel like
Yeah.
there's, tons of people who are 10 times more
Okay.
knowledgeable.
Do you want to
They're gonna
have
do,
nothing or something like what Mike said?
I wouldn't
think
bring
just
tint
nothing.
to
I mean,
Well, I'm saying just the intent. If the intent is, if what you're trying to
Yeah.
avoid is you don't want, somebody's got a bar and they got the windows tinted so dark you can't see in because they want privacy.
Like Scorps.
Which you
I
can
wasn't
see
gonna name
in.
names, but anyway, yeah.
It makes you walk by and you're like uncomfortable because what's going on in there.
Right.
You can't tell what's
So
going
if
on
you just
there.
simply state the intent, I think you could probably get away with it.
Yeah,
It's
that's,
not to make the thing
My
so,
son did this.
I agree.
Can you state that again?
So,
I just
so,
think we should take,
windows should not be tinted to an extent that it is apparent that the purpose of the tint is to obscure the view into or out of the building.
To obscure
Or
the
into,
view.
we don't care about out of, but into the building?
Yeah. Into the building.
we can use, this is an area where we can, to improve the walkability of the downtown, storefront windows should be tinted the minimum necessary to allow transparency, but still provide comfort to those inside.
All right.
ooh,
Great.
looking good. 2 minutes, 10 minutes.
All right.
Page 37.
37. We're into definitions now. Does anybody have any problems with any of the definitions?
No.
Did we do a global search and replace as recommended by Citizen Oshansky to see if any of the definitions were not used in the text anymore?
Oh, I'll check that. Do you want me to remove any that are not?
Yeah, any that are
Okay.
not, will
Yeah.
should be removed. And just cut it down.
It looks like we have several different attempts at human scale. Do we want to pick one?
I like Peyton.
To me, they all read pretty much the same. I have a hard time distinguishing a real difference.
Is there just to use, like a definition that's out there, common?
Or these
What
all
does
Google?
Merriam-Webster say? Does it,
Peyton,
I think it's
how,
all over the place.
They're all
Like
pretty good. It
like
is,
everything.
they're all pretty
You know,
good.
they're very different views of this. I think I was trying to get at the pedestrian level experience at the ground level, and trying, at least when I walk cities, the building height is not the thing that turns me off. It's what's taking place in front of me that turns me off. If it's a dynamic patisserie with a metzgerei and a beer garden and a wonderful wine bar, well, that's pretty excellent. So for me, it's the human interaction at the pedestrian level that I was trying to get at.
And I agree, I think that's the key aspect of it. Human scale is an element in creating, is one element of many in creating a good, comfortable, healthy streetscape.
yeah.
And I think capturing more about the streetscape in this piece, since we're kind of focused on the human scale thing, I think is advantageous.
well, in none of these definitions do we really talk about height anymore. It's really, we've already captured that with pitch roofs and 4 foot, and 4 stories and 5 stories.
I actually
I
like
could
all
take definition 2 or 3 and I'd be totally fine with them.
Yeah, I like all three of them, actually, but Peyton's, I would prefer Peyton's, and I think that it should be recognized that he is already talking about emphasizing proportion, relationship, visual engagement at walking speed. That proportion reference really is really sufficient to pick up the idea of scale, I think.
Yeah,
It sounds like we're going to go with Peyton's.
yeah, go with that one.
What's
The
page?
last one.
Third.
And I think the language about inviting is very more specific in his.
All right, last call on the architectural design standards. Annual meeting.
Oh, so you want a public hearing on these, do you want to see them again, or you want to go right to public hearing?
Let's go to public hearing.
On the 10th or
Please.
24th?
We can do the 10th.
I think it'd be nice to see the final before we go to public hearing, just for the last.
All right.
I'm not saying we gotta edit it, but we should at least say that, yeah,
Okay,
this is.
we'll take a look at it. on the
Okay.
10th.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing we have is.
Wait, real quick, can I just say, would everybody like, once these are finalized, I have offered to clean up the formatting into just a nicer looking document. And I just want to know, is that something that people are okay with?
Not yes, but hell yes.
I was gonna
I'm sure Tracy would have really, I'm sure Tracy would.
Unless-
Well, the only thing I was wondering.
Unless that's
she'd
going
be
to take
stuck
a
doing
lot
it.
of time, and if that reformatting takes a lot of time, I think
It
we
won't
should
take her.
No,
do this
and
as is.
The text will be finalized and approved. That, this'll just be a side project that I can do.
I
with
just
the
feel like
approved
if
text.
we see it on 6/10, we schedule a public hearing for the 27th, then we're in a fairly good line. So I'm just worried that we won't hit that.
Yeah, no, it
But you,
won't.
I mean, you're not going to change the text or the photos?
Correct.
Or the order or anything?
Correct.
No, she's just cleaning it up.
Correct. I can just make it a nicer looking document that is easier to read and flip through.
That's
you're gonna format-
important. The visuals are important, very important.
You're going to format the photos so they tend to align.
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
size,
Format
the same
things so
line.
that they're in a line.
Yeah.
There are things that like break onto another page, like make them separate chapters. Have a whole, if it means a half a page is blank because the next page starts a whole new section,
Yeah.
don't start another section on half a page. Like, it's just formatting, but it's gonna make it look nicer and therefore be easier to read.
More readable.
It's like you've done this before.
All right.
That's what she does.
It is.
I should be able to get you the changes in a few days.
Yeah,
and that'll give you time.
whenever the,
Yeah.
whenever the
Yeah.
updated text is ready to go, just send me
I'll
the Word
get that
doc.
to you.
And you'll keep it in a Word doc?
I can keep
Yeah,
it in a Word
perfect.
doc, yep.
Okay.
Basic code comment.
Mr. Chair, will there be a motion during the public hearing to take this to public hearing?
We don't need to.
We're going to review it at our next meeting before we go to
Oh,
public hearing.
okay. Thank you.
All right, you were asked, we can do that under other business,
Okay.
but let's hit the annual meeting. So, Mr. Barron,
Well, we call this the annual meeting, and it's really just, it's a review of the prior year and discussion about the upcoming year and anything you want to talk about along those lines. So I just included all of the significant agenda items over the past 12 months, which has been actually quite a busy year, surprisingly. And the upcoming things, I think the half dozen projects that we've talked about a lot, unless you want to revisit any of them.
Is the document that you have, I didn't see it. Is it linked there?
Oh, it was just the main document. It's Town Planner's
Planner's
Review. It
report.
starts with Dunkin' Donuts.
Where is it to be
So it's the
found?
planner's report,
Yeah.
town planner's review.
So it's under
At the
other
bottom of the
documents?
agenda.
other docs, yeah.
Oh, is it down there?
And then it starts on page
got it.
3.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's just,
item-
you know,
which
any
items is that?
observations, comments,
Oh, it was in a
suggestions,
Dunkin' Donuts thing.
you know, over the past year, informing how you want to run meetings, make any changes.
Well, I think it's very interesting that the very first thing that is on the list is the lead time to go from conceptual review to having something in front of us can sometimes be quite long.
But that's not your problem. That's the applicant's.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's that whole, how fast can we have it here? How long, you know, when you start talking about larger projects, you can't, you know, if somebody says, is it going to be on the tax books next year? You can't answer that. You don't know if it's going to be next year or 5 years.
Forever.
Lodging house. And the next few things, we were just reacting to stuff that the state had done.
We're still working conservation subdivision.
You know, I think hopefully that was productive, though, at Tech Drive. They came in for a concept that I don't think was very well received, or am I thinking of the previous one? They came in with one that just was
2 large buildings.
way too large and was all over the buffers to our water supply. That's what I remember seeing. Yeah. And that was the one where they had elements of their facility 12 feet below adjacent wetlands. And it just didn't seem like it was going to be very feasible. And this is the same intent to cut.
That's still the case. That drawing hasn't changed that significantly.
Yeah. Are they coming back anytime soon?
Yes, they just got a variance last month for some activity in the buffer. Actually, because our ordinance does not allow parking in the buffer. They got a variance for that. And I'm hoping in the next month or two for formal.
Okay. Similar to what we were looking at?
Yeah, very, very similar.
Okay.
All right, and we had the Oyster River Road one.
And what becomes of this information? It's just for us
It's
to,
just for us to say, wow.
wow, those were the days, huh?
Yeah.
This is
Oh,
all
did
the
we do
stuff we
that?
did, yeah.
So what I see from this is several good things. There's development occurring. Riverwoods, we helped make that happen. We helped facilitate that, and we gave them some changes that helped their design get better. We've worked cooperatively with Technology Drive. The notion that we're completely against any development in this town, I don't think is correct. And I think we're showing it by working cooperatively with these two big projects. And hopefully that's going to occur downtown too. We continue to hear comments like Durham is an impossible place to build, and I don't think that's the case.
I think that developers like to utilize that, and once that reputation is established, I was on this planning board 20 years ago, and we were known as, you can't develop in Durham. And over the course of that 20 years, it's remarkable what has transpired in this, not only our downtown, but along the west edge. So, yeah, I disagree with that entirely.
With the notion that we're business unfriendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And even some of the stuff that closed downtown, like Wildcat Pizza closed, well, somebody else is going to be opening up there and
Yeah.
within a month. So there's dynamism. It's not solving the tax problem, but that's not because of development. It's because of the tax burden issues in the state structurally.
I think one of the other takeaways from this is just how long it takes us to get through something like architectural regulation or zoning changes.
Well, this is probably the fastest we've ever done it.
Yeah, and I don't know whether we can do much about that without having additional meetings and getting mad at one another.
Well, in fairness, you know, we have public comments on all of these things. And, you know, the public comments are, there's frequently a lot of, you know, community activism, which is, of course, great to have an engaged community. But that takes time, because unless you're just going to disregard all the comments, they must be discussed. And we spend a lot of time discussing the substance of public comments, which is an entirely appropriate role. I mean, we can't do otherwise. I mean, so, you know, but the big picture, I think if I'm a developer looking at what happened this year, I agree. I mean, look at the changes to the zoning downtown that increases density. I mean, no one could have expected really much that would be more business friendly or better. More height, more clarity, a revised and clearer, less sort of subjective, more guidance in the architectural standards. So, I mean, I think overall, you know, developers always complain about red tape. That's just what they do. And from their perspective, it's a hard part of their job and frustrating sometimes.
I was in the Rochester planner for 16 years before I came here, and Rochester's attitude, they love development. They do not say no to development. And we had a reputation, they'd say, how come no one's building in Rochester? And it's like the doors were wide open. So I think it's most towns. You know?
And I think the big change that's going to occur is the university's strategic plan. And if you haven't read that, you need to read that and look at that closely, because there's big changes. There's a lot of consolidation on buildings. There's whole buildings that are going to go away and be demolished. That's going to occur on Mill Road. That's going to occur at the edge. That strategic plan shows every building at the edge being demolished and go away. It shows building on A lot, it shows building on C lot. So if you haven't had a chance to read that university master plan, you need to read it, because that's what's going to define a lot of things. All on the CB2 core is all reflected there. And then the future tax base is going to come from the edge and Technology Drive in downtown. But the big thing is the edge. That's like $500 million if that got fully built out. That's the big development.
That's the big development, but you also touched on the second part, which is where the destruction is coming, the build down. So on Quad Way, right there behind, right next to Rip Mill Road, 3 of those dorms are coming out.
The old
Right.
dorms in the back.
The little ones.
The little
just
ones in the back.
Behind where Freedom Cafe was.
Behind that, yep.
Yeah. So, you got to think what's happening there. Is that prep for a new phase or something, or is that an area? Is it going to stay on UNH, or is that something that they'll say, hey, this is prime something I can sell, which means we need to have it zoned right. So I'm planning on trying to build that into our downtown adjacent plan as well.
So where do we think in terms of going forward? We know we had a list of what our priorities were about 6 months ago in terms of, and what the town council had sent to us. So we have the next sort of thing after architectural standards was downtown adjacent? I'm trying to remember now,
think
so what's
that-
in the future here for us?
I can go back to the list, but they did emphasize when they said downtown adjacent, it sounded like they wanted that to be jumped up to, the next thing we grab.
I gotta look it up again.
So I'm going, like I say, I'm hoping that can be our summer activity. I'm hoping we can, and if we can get to a public hearing in August, I don't know whether people will complain that if we do it during the summer, we're trying to hide it from people. You never tell. Or whether we wait till September. But I'll try to have something nicely colored up by early July for us to start looking at and talking about.
We need a map.
That's what I'm going to work on. I've got a few that I'm working on. And leading into that, what I'm struggling with right now, and which I really, really, really need your input on, is what are going to be the attributes of these new zone types that we're creating? So when we're thinking about residential zones that don't have commercial elements, we will have, of course, the RA, the traditional single family with an ADU. Do we allow duplexes? That was one of the things that Housing Task Force had suggested, was adding duplexes to the RA. All right, as well as potentially, other residential zones, RB, RC, R. But from a planning perspective, right now, as I work out these new zones, I need to know if that's going to be the intent for RA.
How do you sequence the conservation subdivision in that context?
It's actually been.
You ignore
shifted back.
it. That's a totally different animal. Because the areas we're looking at will not have
There
conservation
won't be
subdivision lands.
There won't be.
No, right now I'm focusing on the downtown and downtown adjacent, that means RA. All right, so here's one, and to help you lay out a couple of different ideas. My first thought was RA gives you the single and duplex. We have an R4 zone that allows up to quads, up to a 4-family home.
Were we thinking about doing like a separate
And-
district, like
and
that
then-
one that's on Davis?
And then
Yeah, okay.
also having another one that allows multi-unit, and this would be probably Churchill as a base. If you look at Churchill, it's almost all multi-unit, and the only commercial piece is 3 chimneys.
Could you do,
So if we take 3 chimneys out and add that to a commercial zone, then Churchill becomes our first multi-unit residential.
It's basically
Oh,
on
yeah.
that already.
Yeah, and then it's
There's
just a
like
matter
one
of changing the table of
yeah.
uses to make sure that stays that way.
Yeah.
are you suggesting creating brand-new names?
Yes.
Is that or?
Have to.
Or creating overlays where we allow, like,
I'm suggesting 1 or 2 new zone names, and then morphing the zone boundaries to include those with what we currently consider our downtown zones. I'm also considering, and you can chime in on this one, it might be too big of a bite of the apple at this point, but I think it would be a good time to start talking about it, a waterfront commercial zone, which Three Chimneys could anchor. And provide, I would shift Tideline, the Tideline property into it.
Qualify in that area.
Yeah, and basically allow that to go out to the river and take advantage of the waterfront as a potential economic engine. I mean,
If there's any land there that can have it.
How does the,
Skating rink, yeah,
when we're talking about Church Hill, and I recall Peyton's discussion of the building, what was the address, that was going to be multi-unit that you...
Schoolhouse, on Schoolhouse Road?
Yeah, there was one, right,
Oh, the Cal,
Cal, yeah.
Or Cal,
but the
okay.
schoolhouse has one as well, it could be.
Yeah. There, there was this issue of, these are, for practical purposes, Peyton's point was, I thought, very well taken. It's almost like downtown, and it's a great source of the density we want for downtown, but the problem is infrastructure. There's no sidewalk, there's no, and stuff like that. So how does what we do on these, is there any sort of feedback loop into the town's plans for expanding infrastructure? If
There
they're
are no-
asking us
there's no
to
plans.
facilitate increased density in pedestrian traffic and so forth,
got
are
no
they
plans.
thinking about what that means in terms of infrastructure, if it's going to be part of an overall walkable downtown?
Well, that's where the CIP comes in a bit. I mean, that would be an area where if we thought there was an area that the town needed to push something like a sidewalk during our CIP, we could bring it up during our CIP instructions and they might decide where it fits into the 10-year plan.
But it seems like the two things are, there are some real dependencies, if we're.
Oh, yes and
talking-
no. I mean, as an example, when the lodges went in, they didn't like it, but that whole sidewalk going from the football stadium up to the lodges, they put in. The developer.
The developer put in, yeah.
The town usually likes the developer to pay for these things. The town doesn't even want to pay for them if they have to.
We end up with a lot of
the
maintenance
stormwater or
costs.
anything like that. The town doesn't want to pay for that stuff.
Well, and it's not the town, it's the taxpayers.
It's the taxpayers, and so they put it on the,
So-
they put it on the
Well, we've done
developer because it's going to be
but-
their stuff. yeah.
Anyway,
At
my
least we
initial,
know
But-
my initial, and I know you have something,
Just to further comment on that, I mean, sidewalks is one thing. I guess when I think of infrastructure, I'm thinking more like water and sewer. And I think the question is just, are there any of the areas that you're contemplating, that we're all thinking about doing this, that there are any limitations that we should be asking Department of Public Works about ahead of time, just to be aware of? Yes, you might go ahead and zone it anyway, and yes, it might be the developer's responsibility, but it might be nice to know ahead of time if you're planning to go somewhere with something that's got you don't have enough capacity there.
Yeah, we have our eyes wide open when we understand what we're doing, and so does a potential developer.
yeah, and these areas are all already plumbed. And with regards to, do we have the capacity? I mean, a lot of them are right there as close to the, on the sewer side anyway, they're at the
Downtown.
destination end of the job. But
But then like a downtown adjacent, like the professional office, and you go down Madbury, and you got the apartments on the right. All of that already has sidewalk, it's already got infrastructure, it's doable.
It's got water,
doable
sewer.
It's
for
all
good
brand
housing.
new, too,
So
'cause
I
they
think if
just-
we do,
Yeah.
if we did that map, and you sort of did the low-hanging fruit, and then what comes, middle, and what has the highest difficulty, and then really start to prioritize, I mean, otherwise, we just sit around and
Right,
churn it
but,
off.
so, going back to the question is, is everybody comfortable with that three-tiered approach with regards to the residential, non-commercial residential zone, where you have up to duplexes in RA, an R4 zone, and then a multi-unit zone?
I'm trying to just pull it in my brain. I'm trying to pull it together in my head. It's almost like, can we have that on paper with some maps and as to explain it?
Well-
I mean, I think that we really have to stop and think about what we're allowing in RA and what's going to be stomached by the public, what's allowed in RA. And I don't think a fourplex is going to go down in RA. But
I can see duplex going.
That's why I'm not
but
putting
duplex
fourplexes, that's why.
could, yeah.
We
So, but you got to
originally thought we could
decide
do
where
fourplex.
would be fourplexes be appropriate. Where would they be appropriate in any of them? So we have that map, we can say, okay, we have some areas where we already have multi-unit housing in these areas.
Aging multi-house.
Yeah, so if we already have it, why can't we just make that allow, like on Mabry Road, you know, the Davis Court situation? That's aging, and it could become something that could be turned over and turned into fourplexes easily.
The only reason I've ever thought for RA that duplexes make sense is because senior duplexes are already there. And everybody's fine with the, you know, people over
If we have
55
seen-
having
yeah.
a duplex, but
And
not young families.
Yeah.
That, and this is
And
why
there's
I'm
not many
asking,
lots.
because the another option I was looking at is, well, what if you keep RA as just at singles? Then
Create those other areas for the other.
then you might, does it make sense, having to force duplexes into an R4 zone make sense? Or should we then have an R2 zone where duplexes are allowed? Right? And then have the R4 and the multi-unit?
I think
Or do you want to merge the, I mean, I don't.
I think
would
in
be totally-
R2, I think in R2 and in R4, so that you could say because where duplexes do make a lot of sense. In a very, say, the faculty neighborhood, it could be a little
Tough.
tough.
I wouldn't do it there.
And at most, maybe like, you know, being able to convert an existing house, keep the existing house and convert it into duplex or whatever. But
And that would at least
saying
look the
in
same.
B, though, in B, like it could make a lot of sense to allow for that. And it could be areas that are considered RA, like Cowell Drive, that could make sense for a duplex, that could also make sense for a fourplex in some, you know, and that corner lot, that,
And then
What's his
if
face
we
looking?
do go that way, is it okay to have the multi-unit zone right up against RA or R2? Or do we always want to have an R4 buffering it from, say, an because the more zone, you see why I'm at the point where I need to ask these questions? Because
Yeah.
I'm at this point, I got so many different scenarios, I need to narrow it down.
that's where I think we need a map, so we can look at it.
I think I struggle with the idea of doing an abstract thing. We always want to have an RA next to an R2 or R4.
Yeah.
It's like, it depends, because it depends on, is there like a broad, you know, wooded area between this area and that area? Is there a change in elevation that already differentiates things naturally? Is there water or whatever? I think you kind of look at the map, really.
Yeah. You need the
You
map.
need a big aerial photo, not just a map overlaid on aerial photo, so you actually see what's there, I think, to really, in my mind, decipher all this.
Yeah, I think we take
Maybe
each
you
section.
may have all the layers bent into your head, but not everybody does.
Yeah, and I think
why
we
I'm
need the visual.
And the thing is right now, all I can do is give you a visual that is half blank,
Yeah.
which isn't going to help you much. That's why I'm trying to get a little bit of guidance so I can get more onto the visuals so that you can actually have
Okay, so
something to work with.
here's what I think would really go over well for us, or at least for me, would be if we were able to get, you know, a big map with your, you know, broad brush ideas, and then if we, you know, had a presentation and we started with the idea of what areas will support more density, right, generally, and then we just prioritize them and just work out from downtown without a strict rule that says there has to be a buffer for an R4 everywhere, you know, but look at each particular neighborhood as we expand outward and sort of analyze it and kick it around and kind of decide what its boundaries should be and what it ought to be and what we want to see there. Is that a practical way to approach it? We can start with the idea that we're going to have we want to see, you could go ahead and put in the waterfront commercial, for example. But then we could start downtown, we could kind of work, it's the proximity to downtown that makes it a priority because we're trying to increase density closest to downtown. We could start it with Madbury Road. We could then look at professional office and just kind of proceed based on a kind of geographic sense of priority radially out from downtown. That's kind of the way I think about it anyway.
And when we say plans, we all want something visual. Do you want it both in front of you where you can take your notes and draw your lines, and then we're editing something that we're seeing on the screen as well as we have discussion? We're transferring those thoughts onto a document.
Yeah, I think we should have
That's the part I challenge with, because they don't have a digital document to work with. I've got this, which,
Can we create a good digital document to work with?
Well, we got the GIS.
You got the GIS.
that GIS doesn't let you play.
That's
GIS will let you do a black and white or show you the existing zone. It won't let you play.
But at least if you
Well,
know-
but we could get a blow up of it and.
You can snip
You
it,
can
and then you can
snip
play.
whatever you want out of it, drop it into a PDF.
Yeah.
And then
And then play with
scale
it.
it,
Yeah.
and then you can do lengths and areas and
Yes,
start
you
throwing
start
text.
screenshotting.
I mean, it's
colors.
almost like we just need a grease pencil and a big overhead projector with, you know.
Oh, no.
Remember
I
that.
have an overhead projector if anybody.
You might start by looking at the map, the topo, John Hatch's big map.
Yeah, that's a good idea
Well,
as well. We could move the
also-
chairs out into the hallway there.
Well, Michael, remember the economic development, they had this huge, Mary Ellen and
There's
Chris.
gotta be some way to
Suter,
do
they had
this.
this huge map of the downtown, a huge aerial map in their office. They had a huge map.
We can get the aerial map, providing the aerial map's easy. It's showing the new
I think-
projected zones
I think we
that
just
gets
get-
difficult, because I don't
take-
know how these
Take
were
the
done.
take the GIS.
Well, we have the new ones over there.
Yeah, but why can't we just take the GIS map that you have and blow it up as big as we can, and then another section, blow it up and just piece it together? And then we could have individual, just on, you know, just a piece of paper, and just so we can see it, and, you know, start coloring it and lay it all out.
Yeah,
I think we're overcomplicating it, because
Yeah,
I think
that-
there's some areas that are more
Well,
prone
you just gotta
to.
figure out who's gonna do it.
And if we could, when we look at an area, if we had kind of a template for the questions we're going to ask, this would seem to me to be in the wheelhouse of someone whose job title is town planner.
Well, you can get the IT,
You know, what,
but
like a little template of considerations that we should run through so that we analyze each site sort of in a relatively uniform way, at least have some sort of structure to it.
I did ask the town planner if he would be able to focus on providing some form-based code for the new zones.
Well, I think the place for form-based code would be if you have like an R4 zone, if you have a residential zone that allows missing middle up to 4 units. That's the place where you could have some form-based code. And we had some of that as part of the Housing Task Force zoning amendments. You know, that could be embellished.
Yeah, we have it in there.
I don't think you need any more form-based code. The downtown has architecture regulations which cover everything that, as well as other zoning standards. You're covered there. The historic district functions like that. A form-based code is not going to be welcome in a single-family district. So the place that you could use it, and it's all your multifamily zones, the core commercial all have architecture regs. So if you want to create a new zone that allows, say, up to 4 units, and you want those to be compatible with single family, that's where form-based code is helpful. To say if you're putting 2, 3, 4 townhouses, these are the basic parameters so that they fit in with a single family.
Yeah, and that would also be politically wise because it would front load the process of gaining community consensus for the appearance of the structures.
Right, exactly. Right.
So-
They'll only go you so far, though. As I think we discovered in Faculty Road, for example, which is one RA zone, I don't think you could come up with any standards
No.
that would welcome 4-unit new
No.
structures in much
No.
smaller lots.
Well, they're small lots anyway, so I think
It's not,
that area
it's
is
just
different.
not, it's not going to work for that.
But if we had that map that's like that, and then we put on the GIS,
Yeah.
the one that's actually got the pictures of the trees and the this, and so that you can actually see the different natural zones that surround them as
see
a
what's
working
already there.
session. I think we just need to maybe make, like the end of July has an extra Wednesday in it and do a working session on it. But is that getting too late in the summer?
I mean, we're going in, that's only
I mean, we're not that far
8 weeks
off.
away. I mean,
Oops,
it's,
sorry.
we can't.
That's my stuff.
Like I said, I was having trouble getting,
Yeah, like that.
you know, I was trying to work with what I could print at home.
I think.
Which happens
I mean,
to be
a
that.
bigger
They can make
copy
them
of
big.
that.
How come they can't make that big for us?
So you can just do this.
Start with that would be fun.
That is,
Snip that area. And then
I can plot those at work and bring them in. We could all have one, or we could
Yeah.
have one on each side, and,
Yeah, it's just.
I mean,
it's just
if you can, that'd be great.
I mean, do you broadly have some areas that we're thinking about just to sort of scope it into?
Well, that's what I'm getting.
main region?
That's what, yeah, well, like I say, I've got probably 3/4 mapped out, but that was, using the, so I think I'm close. Like I said, I just wanted to get
Well, why
I
don't
wanted to
we-
get your input on what you thought would fly in
I think-
regards to, so I'm hearing
I think the ideas are good. I think,
single family R4, I don't know if we need, and a multi-unit, I think trying to squeeze in an R2 is just too many. We'll
we just
fold
make duplexes
into
allowed in certain
R4.
places and not allowed in other places. That's all. You could just make
Yeah.
duplexes allowed in RB and RC and R maybe.
If all this work was done tomorrow, what would be the thing that we'd want to come from it? 100 new units built? Is that the sort of thing we're driving towards?
Actually, the town council's direction was provide a way to add,
Density to the
Density.
downtown.
to keep commercial away from RA. That's what they wanted. They just wanted me to keep commercial away from RA.
I don't think so. I think what they want is they want to see some building density in the poor adjacent areas. And that
Yeah.
does include then, okay, you have professional office and you might have something just past that could be reached into. It's how do you see how you can finger out so we can get more people living in walkability to the downtown core, which then brings more vibrancy to the core.
Right, but keep in mind the main reason that the redistricting of 10 Cal Drive failed, it was because they were afraid a restaurant was going to go into that
Well,
building.
that's right. That's why we consider that then an adjacent, and we make that multifamily, but no,
With no commercial,
business.
yeah.
yeah. And there's several other, like the adjacent properties in POs the same way. If you called that an R, or whatever you want to call it, R4, that could become denser housing, but with no offices in
commercial
PO.
aspect.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Can you just go through the Cowell Drive? Because when I think about this and I think about modern design, sort of like think about certain areas of Dover that are multi-use, where you've got density and then you've got some restaurants and some useful stuff that's like right at your fingertips. seems like a reasonable design. You don't need to get in your car and drive all over the place.
I think their issue there is that they are already in a very, very complex area because of the traffic pattern in and out of that street.
And
So
the
they
fact
don't
that
want a
it's a very
business up
quiet
there.
RA
I
neighborhood
guess the
back there.
challenge is as soon as you say commercial and then you overlay it with, now I have a requirement to have vehicles, then by definition, you sort of discount it. There's another, I guess, philosophy, which is you could have,
They just don't want any retail there at all, commercial or
Because it
retail.
was a
They were
rezoning.
fine that if it had been just housing.
Yeah.
But the fact you were going to rezone it something that currently allows for businesses
Yeah.
that didn't want it.
yeah.
that was the
Job
thing.
for us, though, to make that possible. then,
Which
right?
is why we got
So then you
charged
create
with doing
different
it.
zones. Yeah.
That's why they want to see something like that. And if we're going to look at it, we need to look at all those adjacents. There's pockets everywhere that could finger out and be
So-
good for residents, but not necessarily have.
What about the
a
idea
coffee
of
shop.
pushing, so we got the Davis Street apartments area.
You got
Davis
schoolhouse.
Court.
So what do you think would be good there? I mean, we could push PO up to it, it's close, or you
Yeah,
could
I-
make it
Make that
a multi-unit
R4.
residential only?
Yeah, I would do that.
Make that multi-unit or R4.
Yeah, I have to, I met with Todd recently. We, Tom Rubin of Golden Goose, the owner of Davis Court, came to see, who developed Madbury Commons, came to see Todd and me a number of weeks ago, looking into how he can redevelop Davis Court, which he wants to do because it's getting very tired. He's going to have to do something at some point. And Todd and I thought that that could be a good opportunity to extend PO up there. It's a very logical extension, and it would bring in a few other properties. And so I have had on my agenda, I told Todd that I would prepare a map showing extension of PO north, including Davis Court. And I've had that on my agenda, and I spoke with Paul today. So I will send that to you within the next couple days.
Is that like across from the
I would
junior high
call
school?
that a
Yeah.
different zone.
I told Todd that I would
think
prepare it.
the-
I'll send it to you, just for you, whatever you think about it.
We will have to
Library.
look at that, but my
Davis Court
concern
Apartments.
about just turning it into PO will
Yeah, it's a bit
be
that way.
the concern that we hit with the Church Hill
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
is what else is allowed? And I think
Right.
that's where we lose it, is
That's
because
why we need it to
the
be R4.
creation of a new zone that just simply allows
Yeah.
a multi-unit rather than creating a zone that could bring in commercial, because that area is it's right there in a residential area. And you're gonna get a lot of pushback from people if they can bring in offices and stuff.
Yeah, you may well be right. I just want it, but I'll just
But
send
it's
this
a
to
good
you.
place to
And
do it.
I think that you can look at it and you might say, PO could work, this extension might be good for R4.
Yeah.
It'll give you something to think about.
it doesn't-
But I'm going to email that to you within a few days.
And doesn't something like Tide Line almost start to point you in a direction, which is it's vibrant, it's walkable, there's stuff going on there, it's flexible, you know, you can get a beer, you can get dinner, you can walk there, you can meet, it's community-centric. Doesn't that seem like,
Well, if you go up that road, almost everything on there is multi-unit. There's one empty lot on that street. And unfortunately, it tucks into an RA. It has like this little pocket of RA
little
right
RA.
there.
It's
got a little-
And so
yeah.
that we could, again, create that as an R4. These weird pockets that you're not going to want a restaurant up there. You're never going to do anything up that
about
road because the
residential.
rest of it's all residential. You've got that great stuff at the edge, right? You can be into the downtown, you can be at Tide Line, you can be wherever, and you can have more housing up in there. So there's a couple of pockets like that all through.
I mean, is it a pocket design then that you start looking at? I mean, Tide Line seems like a way forward. It seems like a great design. I think everyone's satisfied with the way it worked out. I enjoy it. And so.
Yeah, but you don't live next to it.
Well, part of the trick is we
That's
don't.
right, I don't.
But there's actually people on that road that do love it. You're right. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that not everybody, it's nice to enjoy it, but you don't live next to it. And that's, I think, what you would have seen with Cal.
I
The
will-
Cal neighborhood would not have wanted tide line sitting at that lot.
Yeah.
Because it's, one, already crowded, you got the post office right there, you've got student rentals all the way in there, you've got traffic problems going in and out. So every pocket has a different story.
And there's no sidewalk there. That's the danger.
And the
of
sidewalk,
putting
there's no.
commercial in.
And part of the
It's
problem.
really hard
with-
to walk, it is not walkable.
The problem for Durham is bodies. We don't have the population to support a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just started a week ago when everybody left town. 10,000 people leave on a weekend. See you later.
quiet.
So if you want to have commercials succeed, the thing at Davis Court needs to become 400 people. Then you start getting the density in here. Now, I don't know if 400 is the right number, but a big, significant population that can support the downtown. The reason the downtown doesn't keep succeeding is there's not enough people to support it.
And you're,
So I
That's why
have, I
Dover
have,
succeeds, because they have 20,000 more people.
I have a little
And they're-
story to tell.
30 to 40.
So every Tuesday morning, I go into Freedom Cafe. Last week, it was bonkers. I spoke with them this week about last week. Last week was their busiest week this year to date. So explain to me how their business goes up
They had
when the
graduated.
university emptied.
They were,
Because
It's
every
like
other
where-
coffee shop died in town, but there's the Works and Freedom Cafe. Freedom Cafe is a great business that kicks butt and everybody loves it. But the other two coffee shops died and that business has migrated right over there.
I mean,
It's a
people
great
who-
place.
People
It's a
who are
great
never
business with
people
enough-
who've never been there all year just suddenly showed up last week.
That's because the students are away from town, they like it that way.
it was right after graduation,
Except that
final graduation.
at that time, I mean, the place is usually 2/3 empty.
I don't
Who
know.
That
knows?
early in
All
the
I know
morning.
The
is
real
we're
answer is because
diverting. We need to
Brian
go.
has
We gotta
built
leave by
a
10.
great
I'm gonna
business
drive.
there.
right, yep.
Yeah, but
All
I
right,
think
can
if we
we,
proceed on this geographic priority
Yeah,
plan,
All right, I
Mike's
will,
got his, let Mike have the final word.
Can I just add something on to your comment with regard to what the goal should be? It almost sort of says the priority needs to be looking at lots where you can get larger development and not worry about little pocket spots where maybe we can get a couple of buildings or maybe a couple of things can turn into duplexes, but focus on where's the potential to gain 50 or 30 or 50 units at a clip.
And that could be,
and where is the zoning law an impediment to that? For example, like this
well,
instance. where-
and keeping it legal and not spot zoning.
Right.
There you go, there's the wisdom right there, those 3 points.
We just
Yeah.
need to define, well, this is classic zoning and not spot zoning, because what, we could look at lots and we could say, this is an example of the characteristics we're looking for in this zone, and then look at a zone around the lot, and that's all perfectly rational, right? I mean, we have to look at geography, and lots are part of it. But we should be saying, where are the boundaries of these zones? Where are the zones that we have more density to pick up? And what's the appropriate boundary of those zones, working out from downtown? What characteristics do zones have, what's stopping development of residential now? Like that office requirement, which really,
well, we can tell you what stops all
That's a great
development of
example.
multi-unit
Yeah.
housing in the town.
office requirement, professional office, Professional office is like buggy whip zone. I mean,
These new zones need to just be residential. If they're gonna be into residential areas, so, anyways, can we,
Anything more?
Motion to adjourn?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also making progress.